Alrighty, Bowhunters, welcome back to another episode. Sitting here online with Steve Dimitrakellis. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you. Yeah, cheers, Matty. Good to be here. Good to have a chat.
Definitely. So, I mean, we've had some conversations on the phone, over the phone quite a bit, and we were trying to tee this all up last year, in regards to you guys had an event going on for trophy takers, and I was like, you know what would be really cool is if we could get a little bit of extra advertising, I guess, out there and try to get a few more people along to some of the events and just a little bit more love behind what you guys are doing. Then I just thought it'd be cool, but it didn't work out. You had a bit of a change of events and things happened, and there was just
Yep.
yeah, it just didn't play out. So I'm glad that we're at least here now.
Yep. That's it. All systems go. So
Definitely,
yeah.
it's nice to see the mustache in person online. But for
Oh, you're
people,
coming along nicely yourself there, mate. So you
yeah, I was gonna say if people haven't seen yours, it could definitely put a Cape Buffalo's horns to shame.
gave it a bit of a trim actually. So we're
I,
we're
I
just a bit more modest these days.
yeah, I did notice that it's not quite as long on the bars.
Yeah, scaled it back for a little bit just for a change. Gave it a trim with the clippers and trimmed it up and yeah. Anyway,
Just
change is as
trying
good as a holiday.
trying to
The
fend the women
mustache is
off.
going nowhere. So yeah, that's it. Yeah. Unsuccessfully, I might add.
Oh, that's great. Mate, tell us about like when did you get into hunting? When did you pick up a bow? I mean, you walk around with a struggle stick, which makes it even more impressive. And you've
Yep.
taken some pretty great animals, which I want to get into for sure. But what made you get to where you're at now?
I was always into fishing and that as a young fella in primary school. And I hit high school and one of my friends in high school was into hunting and I was just like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like we went ferreting and he had a 22 and wanted to go out shooting with it and said, Dad, can I get a gun? He's like, oh no. Like you can't have a gun. That's no good. I was like, oh, I need a way to get around this. So I said, what about a bow? Can I get a bow and get into hunting? So I'm from Albury, grew up in Albury, and we had a local club out there, Twin City Bowman, and
Hmm.
Dad had a mate that went out to it, was a fair bit involved with it. So he said, "Oh yeah, no worries, I'll send you out there, and you can catch up with the boys out there." And it just sort of went from there. So I think I would have been about 12 when I first dropped out there, and pretty lucky. It had a very good, strong hunting culture, bow hunting culture out there, Twin City Bowman. So yeah, there were, it just I think just stemmed from that. Like it was
Mm.
very very focused on more so on bow hunting than the field archery side. So
Yeah.
the game like every week there'd be someone bringing in heads to get scored or rating game and that
Mhm.
sort of thing. And guys that have photo albums and be like you have your first round and then in between people would be there and they'd be talking about hunting and bringing in their horns and showing their photos and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, just sort of stemmed from there. Just got young and keen. I think they probably had a couple of trophy takers annual awards there too when I was younger, sort
Hmm.
of during my teenage years, and that really kicked it off. There was a few guys like Dave Whiting was involved in our club as well
Yep.
at that stage. Dave James, a few other Tom Hills, just some like guys that were very prolific bow hunters in the 70s and 80s sort of thing.
Definitely.
So they were the core of our bow hunting group in the club, and they sort of they sort of flourished from there. There's a lot of good bow hunters in that Albury Wodonga region, and a lot of them have grown up in that club. So yeah,
Yeah, it's
it's good.
incredible. Yeah, there's a lot of names you just mentioned that I'd love to have on the podcast. I often talk about it with some mates, especially some mates who are in the trad hunting as well, and they're like, "Oh, they're definitely some stories and yarns that you need to cop before those guys get that too far past their prime to be able to tell them." Right. So,
Yeah,
I've been trying to get Dave on the podcast forever. The hard thing is he's just too bloody busy.
he's very busy. He's always busy. I think we organised a hunt in March or something, just like pre-rut sort of thing. Just
Hmm.
have a little bit of a look for deer and a bit of fox whistling and that, as Dave loves. And I think there was one weekend that we could sort of make it work. He goes, "I'm just too busy. Like any other weekend, we'll do it." I said, "Yeah, that's no worries. We'll make it work." You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
good. Took a couple of my sons up there, and we had a ball. So
yeah. That's incredible. I would love to do a small game specific podcast with Dave. I think that would be very insightful.
well, you'd want to make it a 4 hour one because you won't shut him up. He loves it. He loves it. Like seriously, I went out there with my boys and we're sitting out there and he spent the whole time fox whistling for the kids. And I know where there's a rabbit warren up here and he's taking them, we'll go up here. And sure enough, like the boys are having shots at rabbits and yeah, it was great. Like he loves that as much as anything.
Yeah, that's
Like you can
incredible.
hunt your deer and you hunt your pigs and that, but I think, Dave's been whistling foxes. God, I'd hate to think for how long. You know what I mean? Since the early '70s. You know,
Mm.
so
Yeah, wow.
his yeah, I think it's just a passion and it just burns pretty deep, and it's been going forever.
I think it's just so cool to see that though, the fact that it can live on for that long as well, and the fact that you can still have such drive and passion and fun towards it. And I guess because it is something that's ever changing, you can never dictate the outcome or understand what's going to come. You don't know what's going to run in at you either, in the sense of if you're going to get a fox, a cow, a hare. No, we even had wallabies jump into us a few times when we are using the fox
Yeah,
whistle.
right.
So
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
so you never know what's going to come in, right? And I think it's just the fact that you can't dictate it, and it's just it is so variable. It makes it so exciting as well.
Yep. Yep. That's right. Absolutely. Yeah. Someone like that, their enthusiasm, it's infectious too.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I mean, it's just good. The kids were getting right into it, and that's exactly what I wanted. Like
Yeah.
where I was their age, you know, when I was, Dave took me out because, you know, he'd see me around the club and say, oh, you're young keen, do you want to come for a fox whistle or something like that? And I ended up going for a weekend away with him and Dave James chasing pigs and goats sort of up around Burrinjuck Dam area, wee Jasper Way. And we're up there for the weekend. And for me, that was the greatest thing, you know,
I
out
can
to be a
imagine.
young fella going with those guys and just you're hanging on their every word and you're walking with them through the bush and, you know, they're showing you things along the way and just what you learn and pick up. It's great. You know
How
what I mean?
how
So
old were
for,
you at that point?
probably 14, 15. Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice to have a good direction as well, like that. Like having some guys come and kind of take you under their wing and just say like, "Look, this is the way you do it properly. This is bow hunting." Also, I guess take you away from whatever other distractions there are when you're young. I'd definitely be a very different person if I got into bow hunting younger. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, absolutely. Well, it was, I was obsessed with it. Like
Hmm.
by that stage, I was totally obsessed with it. So, yeah, I couldn't imagine not being bow hunting. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Just, I've been doing it for that long that it's the core part of my identity, really. That's who I
Mm.
identify as.
Hmm.
Like it's, you know, before I was you know, doing the work that I'm doing or the football I played or whatever sort of stuff, you know, just how all my other friend groups know me. Like my bow hunting friends, some of them have been for 35 years. So
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
yeah,
And you get
and
some good.
still great mates to this day, and we still go out and go hunting and catch up and all that sort of stuff. You know, so
Definitely great mates. My daughter today actually she we got a little camera for Easter and she's like, Dad, I'm gonna do this little documentary. I'm gonna film everyone in the family and get their talents. She comes up, she's like, Dad, what's your talent? I'm like, oh, I can provide meat for us. And she's like, Dad, I can't film that. How am I meant to do this? I'm like, let's go at the back and I'll shoot the pig target. And she's like, that's a great idea. So yeah, film me doing that. And I'm like, it is. It just becomes something that is like such a part of your identity and something that I don't know, it's very consuming in a great way.
yeah, absolutely. I suppose everyone's got, you know, passions, whatever their passion takes them in life. You know what I mean? But and for
Hmm.
me, and for a lot of my good friends, it's bow hunting, and that's just how it is. I don't think it's ever going to change.
You know what's honest? Like I see people that don't have a lot of fun, excitement, or any form of passion in their life, and I'm like, you really need to have a hobby. Like you need to find something that's a lot of fun because then it will give you a drive and like I don't know, it spices up your life a lot in a different way, and will bring a lot of joy to your life if you can find something that you actually are very passionate about. That you do find such joy in going out. Like I'm so excited to go out this weekend and walk the hills. And I don't even like I'm going out with my longbow. It's the first time I'm going out with it like proper, just one hunt for my longbow and
Yeah,
not
cool.
taking anything else. I'm super excited about it. At the same
Yep.
time, I'm like, I don't actually care if I don't get a thing this weekend. Just excited to be in the hills again.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And that's how it should be. Like
Mm,
I understand the whole point to go out is to get something. You know
mm,
what I mean? Like that's what you are hunting. You're not bushwalking, but at the same time, I'm pretty easy. Like it doesn't worry me. And if it did, I'd be taking a rifle. You know what I mean? Or shooting a
yeah,
compound. So
definitely.
that's
I
it. It's
mean,
just like yeah, I just enjoy myself.
for the first time in a long time, my freezer is like pretty much packed to the brim. Like I'd fit another deer in there for sure if I had to, but at the same time, I'm like, if it doesn't
Just get
happen,
another
it's
freezer.
fine.
Just get
Yeah.
another freezer.
Well, I've got an
Problem
ice.
solved.
Yeah, I've got an ice bath freezer which I haven't converted into a freezer yet, so I could do that if worst comes to worst. Pack out a
Yep.
whole body size worth of yeah, worth of freezer meat. Mate. So, did you always start with a struggle stick then?
No, no, no. Early days, like I think I started with a recurve just to learn with sort of thing, and then I got a compound because most people were shooting compounds and that. So,
Hmm.
but back then it was. bare fingers, no sights, wood arrows, steel cables with the teardrops on them, and
Yeah, wow.
that's how it was back then in the early '90s. So that's just what everyone shot, and so it was in that Chuck Adams era, I suppose, just on the cusp of that, really.
Yeah.
So
What
yeah,
was your tuning like on those bows with the steel cables and the everything that they had going on, the wood arrows? Like, was there much tuning, or did you just have to learn how to shoot it the way
no,
it shot?
no, there was no tuning, mate. That was it. It was it. Just like the tuning went as far as you got the what you thought were the right spine arrows, woods from the shop.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a 30-pound bow, so I'll get 30-pound woods, and that was it. That was as far as tuning went. Put
Yeah,
a new
wow.
rest on it when the old one fell off, and
Was it the old plastic limbs? Oh, sorry, the rest?
plastic rest. Yeah, the
Yeah,
plastic
yeah.
stick-on rests. Yep,
Yeah, how
yep.
great.
Like so, they weren't even center shot or anything. So yeah,
So
they
things have
just
changed
there's
quite
no
a lot.
cutout. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. I mean, even year on year, what you see they do. I mean, really, it's like they're doing minute things, but it's those little 1%ers that they do from year to year now, I think, with the compound bows. And I feel like every 5 years is kind of like the next really big upgrade that they get to. But yeah, it's pretty crazy to see the amount of technology that goes into them now and the teams that are behind building bows. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, it was for a bit. I was just thinking like, how much can they actually improve it?
Hmm.
You know what I mean? It's the diminishing returns. You know what I mean? Like they put so much money and innovation into it, and but now some of them are getting really quiet, like how quiet these compounds are, which surprised me. Like I thought, oh wow, that's interesting that they're actually getting them the
That
harmonics to be that quiet in them. Yeah, it's so yeah, I don't know where it's going to go, but they keep getting faster, they keep getting more shootable, keep getting quieter. So yeah, it's
yeah.
certainly good, I suppose.
I was talking to Benny about this the other day, Benny Fenson, because I've been shooting my longbow between I've got like a glass wall and then the glass fencing to my pool that I shoot between to shoot down my little alley to get to my pig target. And so I've been shooting there with my longbow. I'm like, dude, it's so noisy. He's like, no, it's probably just the harmonics of where
Right,
you're
right.
actually shooting. Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
true.
But at the same time, he did bring up the brace height as well. Yeah, that was another thing that he
Yeah,
did bring up. And the string is stretching in. It's definitely a little bit longer than sorry, a little bit. My brace height's a little bit longer than what I want it to be. It probably usually sit around 200 mil ideally, but it's a new string. And I've been trying to shoot like stretch it out, and it's about it's probably sitting at about 220, I'd say right
yeah,
now. So it probably is playing into it a little bit. But at the same time, I feel like it's also just the actual dynamics of where I'm shooting, like the rebounding of the sound and stuff. But I was saying to him, like, I don't know how you shoot deer with these things because it's so slow. Like watching it compared to the compound, you like almost walk next to it as you shoot. Not actually, obviously, but it's definitely a struggle stick for a reason, right?
yeah. Well, I know that I've been shooting traditional now for a bit, and I've got plenty of other mates that got lots and lots of bows, and they'll rock up to the club. Oh, what's that one? Give us a shot of that, and
Yeah.
you shoot the recurves, and to me, it's like I could never shoot them because they're too fast. So I sure shoot high with a recurve
Yeah.
because they're just
Wow.
like, I'm shooting a bloody compound. I said it's noisy, it's too fast, I can't shoot them like it.
So what do you walk around with usually? What's your bow?
Just a longbow. So at the moment, it's a like a D-shaped longbow,
Hmm.
but it's rather than the hill style grip, it's more of a pistol grip sort of thing. So it's a bit more
Mm.
comfortable
Yeah.
sort of thing to use. But yeah, I just like them. That sort of D-shaped longbows, I find they're very quiet,
Mm.
and I like a quiet bow. Like I don't care how fast it is, I don't care how flat it is, as long as it's quiet. And I like to sneak in close.
Yeah.
And if I shoot a quiet bow, that's better, I think. So
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I feel like anything that is on your side is going to help you, and that's one massive thing. Like they will react to sounds definitely. And so yeah,
yep,
if you can make it bow quiet, it's just going to help you that little bit more.
yep, yep, absolutely, yeah. And I think because I don't chase speed with it, so I just shoot
Hmm.
probably 10 grains per pound is what
Yep.
I'm shooting for my arrows, and that just sort of because it's slower, it sits on that string a bit longer, and
Hmm.
to me it just soaks up that noise a lot.
Mm.
So I'll just do that, and it'll sort of more of that energy that uh, goes into making the string vibrate goes into pushing the arrow instead. So that energy transfers to the arrow rather than getting the arrow off there quicker and then the string vibrating.
Mm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It definitely does. So you probably have played around with your weights and things quite a lot, or setup in general. Is it something that you kind of tinkered with to get to a place where you're happy with it, or what? Did you just find something that worked and you just stuck with it from there on?
As far as what bow I shoot, you mean,
I mean, like
or just tuning?
bow and arrow setup, and yeah, just like essentially getting to a stage where you're happy with your complete setup,
Yeah,
really.
I think for me, I went to carbon arrows or
Hmm.
what because I found wood arrows hard to find. It was a long time, like probably 15 years ago. It was hard to get good quality woods in Australia.
Yeah.
So consistent wood. So I just went without actually getting them imported from the States.
Hmm.
I should put that disclaimer on it. So it was to me that was a bit too much drama. So I just went, oh look, I'll just get some carbon arrows. So I just get the gold tip trads or whatever. And then once you've done that, like they're all the same. You know, you
Mm.
get 400 spine. They're all 400 spine. I don't have to tune. I don't have to straighten them. I don't have to, spine them to make sure that they are all spine. You know, all the weight should be there. They're going to be straighter and closer than any other wood arrows that I'd be making, sort of thing. So I just decided to go with that for consistency, and
Yeah.
then bare shaft tune them,
Hmm.
just cut them to whatever length tune. So depending on what bow I'm shooting and what heads I'm shooting, what weights is how long my arrow is. So it changes
Yeah, got you.
from bow setup to setup sort of thing. But
So every
for
time you
what?
get a new bow, you got to get a new dozen as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
New arrow. Yep. Yep. Basically, that's what I'll do. So, yep. A new bow gets a new setup sort of thing. So I'll get the arrows and I'll say, right, I want to shoot 175 grain broadheads or whatever it is I want to shoot.
Hmm.
So I'll do that, put a 175 grain head on it, do the bare shaft. Okay, it's shooting weak, and just progressively cut it shorter and shorter and shorter until it starts bare shafting straight.
How much are you cutting off each time when you're doing that? Because obviously, if you go inch by inch, you can definitely go too far too soon.
You can, yep. And I've done that before too. So
It's a
it's just sort of
nightmare.
at the start, like depending on how sideways it's sitting in the target, you go, well, okay, that's a fair way. It's sitting at a 30-degree angle. Okay, I'll lop an inch off and see. And if it hasn't really brought it back, I'll cut another inch. But if it's bringing it back, okay, maybe I'll go to half inch, quarter inch, little tiny bit after that sort of thing. And yeah,
So you're
and just
talking
sort
about
of
the way
work it
that
out.
it's actually placing in the target. So it's come in,
Correct.
it's hit roughly where you
Yep.
want to hit, but it's on an angle like this instead.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Got you.
Yep. So if it's weak, it'll flick left and it won't be stiff enough to flick back to the center or to the right.
Hmm.
Sorry, that's wrong. If it's weak, sorry, if it's stiff, it'll flick left. Hang on, I'll bowl myself now.
That's all right.
I'm like I don't know how to tune. I've forgotten it now. Um,
It's
yeah,
like every time I go to tune
it's
my.
too thick. So it'll flick left initially for a right-handed shooter. It'll flick left, and if it's too stiff, it won't flex back.
Got you. So it will sit in on a 30-degree
It'll
angle,
stay left.
roughly,
Yeah,
or whatever, on the
it'll
left.
stay
Yeah,
left. Yeah,
got you. Yeah.
yeah.
And so when you're saying left, you're saying that the feathers will be out to the left of where it's hit. Is that
The knock,
correct?
there won't. Yeah,
Yeah.
the knock, there won't be feathers on it.
Yeah, yeah, of
So
course. Yeah, so yeah.
the feathers will cover that, like any poor tuning. Like
Hmm.
sometimes you see people and they'll arrows will fishtail because they're not correctly spined.
Yeah.
That's why it's just the feathers straightening it up. Look, it'll fishtail for a little bit and once or twice flick backwards and forwards, and then the feathers will straighten it up and it'll keep going straight. So,
Yeah, okay.
if you bare shaft tune it, so you get them hitting straight the target, you just keep tinkering like that.
Hmm.
And if it's going the other way, if they're too weak, you can decrease your point weight. But I just get a arrow that'll be too weak per se, and then shorten it to stiffen it.
Yeah, okay.
Just do it that.
And then what? So essentially, the percentage of the angle will be the difference of the weakness. And so as it starts to straighten up, okay, I'm getting to a better
Yep.
length. So therefore, I'll trim off only a few mil rather than an inch, sort of thing, or half
Yep.
an inch.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
Yep. And then once you've got them shooting they'll shoot like lasers. It's amazing. And then
Mm,
after that, I figure once they're that well tuned, I'll just put on small feathers. So I just put 4 3-inch fletchers on there, and that's it. And away you go.
four,
And
just wait, you said 4 3-inch fletchers. Yeah, cool. Got you.
feathers.
Yeah,
Yep.
feathers. And so have you tried playing with the feathers and different types of veins as well? Like you ever tried with the plastic ones or anything like that that they're bringing out?
Oh, I tried those trad veins and I couldn't get
Yeah.
the glues to work with them.
That's what I've
I
heard, that
found
they're
that.
actually very thin in the bottom and hard to put on.
Yeah, I couldn't get them to stick on properly, so I
Yeah.
just went, oh, don't worry, I'll just use feathers.
Yeah, okay. And then is there a shape in the feathers that you've kind of found works well?
I just go the normal parabolic shape.
Yeah.
The shield feathers look great.
Hmm.
I probably should shoot them more because I thought that they were a bit noisier because they were bigger, but I've heard other people say now that it's to do with your feather quality. If you've got a softer feather, then they'll be quieter than a stiffer
Interesting.
feather. And I thought,
Yeah,
well, that makes sense because
it
when the
does.
feathers get a bit ratty, they're noisier too. Like if you've got a little couple of bits chunks missing out of them,
Mm.
if they've had a hard life dragging through bush or other arrows whacking them in the target, then they do get noisy. So usually before a hunt, I'll just if they're a few tatty ones, I'll just get them out of circulation and keep them for the target, or I'll just replace them.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I think yeah, with a better quality feather, it probably should be. But yeah, I'm starting to make a few wood arrows now, and I really like the shield feathers because they look great. So
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
yeah,
And then in regards to getting a softer feather versus a harder feather, is it just different brands or you like, yeah, how are you actually getting that? 'Cause is that something you can choose when you buy?
yeah, you can choose yeah different like the better quality feathers. You obviously pay more. You can get cheaper
Okay.
feathers, and so it's just a trade off really. So whatever you want, if you want to get, but I haven't really put it to the test though. Like I've got to because when you know I've got I hate to think probably a couple of thousand full length feathers in my shed just so I can chop them to different shapes or burn them or whatever. So yeah,
Yeah, wow. So you're
so
actually like full length, and then you're just trimming them back yourself each time?
yep,
Yeah. So they're
yep. So
pre-cut.
I've
It's
got
not like you're quartering them and then having to actually like you're not quartering a feather and oh sorry, halving a feather and using it that way, are you? You're just
no,
literally
no,
yeah, they're already pre-cut. You just
yeah,
cut it to
yeah.
length.
They're already already ground down to the quill and all that sort of stuff. So you're putting them in your feather choppers and just cutting out the shape and the size, whichever one you want. So
Yeah, wow. Well, that's interesting.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
it is just like a forever tinker sport, right? Like there's extra bits you can get into, and especially as you go into the trad bow world, it's like the more depth you want to go, or the deeper down the rabbit hole you want to go, you can make your wood arrows, you can yeah with the feathers get into that as well. Like it seems like it's
yep.
never ending.
Yep, yeah, you can go down that rabbit hole as far as you want. You can hang around the outside where it's nice and sane, or you can you can dive in and go, what the hell am I doing here? But it's good though. At the same time, it's something to have a muck around with, and if you're bored at home doing nothing, it's like oh, I'll just go in the shed and muck around with some arrows for some mates. So yeah, it's good. Sort of next time I'm home on the weekend, I'll finish them off. I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very
a
good.
couple of mates got some nice new bows, so I said, oh, well, you need some good arrows for that. So
Yeah.
make them up some arrows. I think we caught up. Must have been Easter time.
Hmm.
There's a mate down from Queensland, so he come down. We all had a get together, and we all had our trad bows there, and everyone's just as we do, just have a catch up and talk and bit of a shoot, a few beers, and they said, "Oh, we're all going to shoot. We all want to shoot wood arrows for the trad shoot at our local club next year." And I said, "Oh yeah, righto." I said, "Oh, I'll make them. You know, a couple of beers in. Yeah, I'll make it for everyone. Yeah, no worries." And next thing you know, I mean, I'm up for like 3 dozen arrows. I got to make up or something, half dozen sets for everyone. It's like, oh well,
Oh God. So
not doing anything.
take us through the wood arrow setup. Like what do you have to do? Obviously, are they coming? They're coming already the same size, and then you're just having to stiffen them up or straighten them out. Like, what's the deal there?
They'll come as different spines. So they'll come as usually 5 pounds spine stiffness. So rather than saying a 400 shaft, there'll be
Mm.
say like okay, 55 to 60 pound.
Hmm.
So, but that sort of works out roughly. I think like I don't know, like a 450 or something that'd be
Yeah.
spine. So yeah, like your 400 spine's probably like about your 60 pound or 65
Okay.
pounds, something like that, roughly.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you get it, but you buy them pre-spined. I've got an arrow like a spine tester,
Yeah.
but you buy them pre-spined to save you
A
sorting
lot of
through
time.
because
Yeah.
you get 100 arrows and you mightn't get too many that are in your spine range. You might get
Yeah.
a fair few that'll match, but they're no good to you, sort of thing. So
Hmm.
so yeah, the joy's doing it. So you'll get them in the spine range, and you go, okay, well, I want because you can find out, okay, like for my bow, 65 to 70 pound shoots well out of a 52 pound longbow,
Hmm.
but that's to do with also my draw length.
Yeah.
So probably So my arrow's a bit longer, so that makes it weaker. So you sort of need to stiffen it up a little bit to get them to fly true.
Yeah,
So
okay.
so like what's your longbow, just for an example?
I have a 60-pound jackal. It's the stalker stick bow.
Yep.
I think it's,
Yep.
oh, I couldn't tell you the actual distance to distance. I feel
Yep.
like
That's all right.
68
Yep.
inch maybe or something. Yeah.
Yep. They're a pretty good bow, like pretty high performing. They spit an arrow out nicely. So, and your draw length and your
Draw
what's
length.
that
So,
roughly?
well, I think I'm 30 inch, but I feel like it's probably 28 on the longbow. Maybe I don't know.
Yep.
Like so
Yep.
on my compound, I sit at 30 inch.
Yep. Yep. So if you're shooting a 60 pound at say 28-inch draw, so you probably need like a 29-inch arrow, just
Hmm.
so you're not hitting your knuckle with a broadhead.
Yep.
So yeah, you're probably looking at like a 75 pound wood.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's what your wood spine would be, something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Um.
you'd buy that and then you'd cut them to your length and
Mhm.
then and go from there, sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely. So there's actually not that much difference to setting up some wood arrows compared to the carbons.
No, no, not really. It's just sort of just knowing the steps to go through, I suppose. Yeah,
Yeah. And then
what you
what
need to
about
do
for
and
your
how much.
heads? Like what are you having to do there? Because obviously with the carbon, you just slip in the insert, you're good to go once you've glued it in. Is it
Yep,
just you're gluing on top instead, and that's the difference?
yep, yep. That's it. Yeah, so you'll taper the shaft.
Hmm.
So basically, like the inserts that you'll
Yep.
get, like for a glue on broadhead. Yep. So you'll taper it to that like a 5-degree taper, which is a standard. So you got a little pencil sharpener, or you get jigs that you can put on like a grinding disc or something on a machine,
Yep.
like on a belt sander, and yeah, and grind them down to the correct. You just set that up on your machine and grind them down and do that. Away you
Yeah.
go. So the pencil sharpeners are not too bad. They're pretty good, but they do get blunt after a while. So you got to either buy a new one or just sharpen the blade, like take it out, sharpen it, and replace it. And on the
Is,
better quality ones, you can do that.
is it just a screwdriver head just to pull it out, the blade?
Yeah, just like a little, basically like a little pencil sharpener blade.
Yeah.
You can
Okay.
take that out and
Yeah.
you can sharpen that a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. Yeah. I don't know. It's definitely something that I'd be interested in doing one day. I don't know about anytime soon. I got to find some time first, but yeah, it's one of those things. Like you said, it's nice to sit around the outside and not have to dive down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, well, you can dip your toe in the water whenever, I suppose, and if you don't like the temperature, you can hop back out.
Exactly. It's like having a shower with my wife. She has it way too hot. So tell me about in regards to trophy taker stuff. We'll go into that a little bit more now, and then I'd love to hear
Yep.
some of your hunting stories. But in regards to trophy takers, because the people you got to hang out with and that brought you into bow hunting, were you always a part of trophy takers?
Yeah, I was pretty fortunate that the people around me that were into bow hunting were all in trophy takers. So,
Mm,
like, our club, there probably would have been probably 20 to 30 active bow hunters,
hmm.
and probably of that 20 to 30, probably 15 to 20 of them were in trophy takers.
Yeah, wow.
So just that was just the thing. It's like, oh, well, once you shoot some, a good animal, you get it scored and you join trophy takers and that's it and you're away, sort of thing. So
Yeah.
back in those days too, there weren't many magazines. Archery Action was probably the one that was before the bow hunting magazines came out. The Australian bow hunting magazines came out, like
Hmm.
Mark Ballard's magazine, or later Cashy or Bowie's magazine, sort of thing. But there was just nowhere to get any bow hunting information or
Yeah,
stories. You know
got
what I
you.
mean? That was so probably once or twice a year in Sporting Shooter there'd be an article, and
Yep.
that was it. So at least trophy takers that have a newsletter that had come out, so you'd get the newsletter, and all it was like an old photocopy thing, so there'd be all black and white photocopies of all the game that the guys had shot, and
That's awesome.
there'll be little stories like from what the Canberra boys have been doing and what the guys over here have been doing out Western New South Wales, and there was an Albury report for the guys down locally as well. And Mick Barrett had the Darwin one up in, what the Territory boys were doing. And
That's
yeah,
excellent.
so it was good, just like a little newsletter and networking sort of thing. So, and obviously there was that, and then the annual awards that they'd have. So
Hmm.
every year, or back then it was Easter because there weren't many deer around, so there wasn't a rut. So it used to be Easter every That's true. Yeah, and every Easter there'd be the annual awards, so to go over the Easter 4 days sort of thing. So a couple of times it was down at Albury, and and Billy Baker's there and Dave Whiting's there and all this sort of stuff. And you go, oh my god! And guys you see in the magazine, you go, oh wow, and listen to all their yarns and going through their photo albums, because back in those days, no one had phones. That's where everyone's photo album is now. You talk to a bow hunter now and everyone's getting their phone out and flicking through it. But
Definitely,
back
yeah.
in those days, there were the old school A3 photo albums, and like some of them, like Dave Whiting, some of them like 10 and 12 inches thick,
Yeah,
and it's
wow.
incredible. You go through it and it goes back, like 30 years of bow hunting history in there, in those albums back then. You know what I mean? You just look through and there's like pictures of the old guys as young guys, you know what I mean? Hunting out, west, the Macquarie Marshes, or, Western Queensland and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
just cool. Yeah. It's really cool. Hard not to get enthused when you're a young guy. So
definitely,
that's sort
yeah.
of how I got into trophy takers. Yeah.
And so, I mean, of the traditions, what are some of the things that you guys have kept up to date with? Oh, I mean, let's actually explain what trophy takers is a little bit more, because I don't think we've really given much of an explanation and such. I mean, you kind of talked a little bit to, I
Okay.
guess, what kind of started it, but yeah, what is trophy takers now, and what are you guys? Yeah, tell us more about it in general.
So Trophy Takers it's just a rating organization.
Hmm.
So basically you shoot, a big deer, big billy, buffalo, boar, whatever. You can get it scored, you can get it measured like by an accredited Douglas scorer. So it'd be like someone that's in ABA or the Australian Deer Association, or one of Trophy Takers guys.
Hmm.
And then as long as it's an accredited scorer, like an official score, and then you can submit that and a photo, and then you're in Trophy Takers. So it's basically, and you'll get um, a certificate saying this is, your trophy scoring, 224 Douglas, ranks number 37 in our books. Congratulations. And here's a computer printout of our top 50 deer or
Yeah,
whatever. So
wow.
you can look out and go, okay, cool. This is, my fellow was 220, but oh shit, look at this. There's 270 ones in there and 260, and mine only makes, the top 40 or something. It's like, oh wow, there's all these other ones up there. Just give you something to look at and compare, I suppose,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
check
that's
it out.
cool.
And yeah, so but that's all it is. And that's all it is. And it's just a networking thing. So once every year we'll get together, we'll recognise the achievements that everyone does, like the best of species, best tradition. We have traditional trophies, like for the
Hmm.
best shot with traditional gear, lady bow hunter, junior bow hunters, um, and also there'll be just some other stuff as well. Like just trying to think. Yeah, just all the best of species ones basically. So they've all got their own individual trophy, and they're perpetual trophies. So some of the ones like the pigs and that sort of stuff, they're all amazing old scrimshaw trophies, and that from like Bill Hill did them back in the 80s or whatever. So
Yeah, wow.
they've got like 40 years of the best pig shot, the score, the name, and all that sort of stuff on it. It's they're really cool trophies. So
That's really cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's good. Yeah.
And
So
in regards to the meetups that you guys have each year, is it kind of like an open invite, or is it you have to be a Trophy Takers member to be able to be there? What's the
no,
deal there?
open invite. Yeah,
Yeah, wow.
anyone that's wants to come along, and like it's there for there. We're promoting bow hunting. That's basically what we're doing. So we just to say, yeah, if you're interested, come along, like check it out, see what we're about, hang out, talk bow hunting, and if you want to join. If you don't, that's fine too. Like, see you at the next one, hopefully, and we'll have a chat then. Like,
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
that's all it is. So
Yeah. And do
we're
you
just
get
like hanging around other bow hunters. It's just an excuse to talk bow hunt for a weekend. So
exactly? Yeah, it's a not a bad thing to do at all, is it? Get around some good people.
yeah,
Um,
and
do,
most guys will bring heads as well too.
that's what I
Like
was about to
a lot
ask.
of guys will
Yeah.
bring their heads that they'd shot that year, sort of thing.
Yeah, very cool. So you
Yeah,
actually
so
got to kind of
we'll
see the
always have a
sizes.
trophy display.
Yep.
Yep. So a lot of guys will bring their trophies from the year and all heads to be scored or whatever like that. So yeah, it's pretty cool. There's always a very good display, like photos as well, like game photos and scenic
Hmm.
photos, as well as heads, skulls, tusks, all that sort of stuff as well. So
Yeah,
yeah,
well, Cam Rand and Grant Rand came down and did the scoring, the Douglas scoring, like figuring out how to do it properly in Oberon that
yep,
you guys did earlier in the year, and it was really
yep,
cool to watch them actually do it in camp. Then it's quite cute. Cam's got all of his stuff in like this little folder. He pops it all out and gets it all set up, and
yep.
got all these little trinkets and things that you can use throughout it. And yeah, it's actually very interesting to watch the process of like where he measures, how he measures, the dot points he puts on it. He actually puts sticky tape all over the head just to make it easier while he was measuring and everything.
Yep.
And yeah, just a cool process to kind of see. It's I don't want to say it's in depth because I don't want to scare people away from it, but it's intricate to some degree. Like you do need to make sure that you're getting the right measurements in the right spaces. And so it is
Yes.
good to see that there is actually care taken with it as well. Like there is a system that you have to follow, and that it's taken to that as well.
Yep. Yeah. Well, you're paying respect to the trophy. You want to
Hmm.
give it its credit for what the animal's grown, sort of thing. So you measure it, and you measure it right to the by the letter, and that's it. Like there's, but it's good. It gives you a different level of appreciation, I suppose, because once you sort of know once you know how to score, then you sort of start looking at animals a bit more. We go, is he better than my last one? Is he not? He's a good one still, but I don't know if he's better than that. So maybe I'll just let him slide for this one and give another year or two or something and check out something else. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, definitely.
that
Yeah,
that's the way, sort of. Yeah.
it was also very interesting, especially for fallow deer, because we had so many different heads in camp and some that looked absolutely huge compared to others, but because they were missing certain parts, like for instance,
Yep.
missing guard tines and missing,
Yeah.
uh,
Times a killer. Yeah.
yeah, and it would just drop the scores, essentially scores down so much, and so to see these two heads side by side, and it really, in all honesty, for all of us, they were our own trophies, and like we're so stoked no matter what the score was at the end of the day. But it's interesting to see how they would just compare partner like one to one. You're like, oh wow, I didn't expect that would be comparable to that, and it's just because it's got everything on it compared to that's missing half of the stuff, and it
Yep.
just yeah affects it that much. It's very interesting.
Yep. Yeah. A lot of people can get caught up on the score, but it's just a number at
It
the end of the
is,
day, and that's
yeah.
how I treat it. Like it's good to know the score, but at the same time, it doesn't mean much. It's just a number because
Hmm.
I know, like if there's some animals that I've shot and I couldn't care what it scored, I was just so happy to get it. You know what I mean? Like it's just a number.
Definitely.
I couldn't score. If it scored 100 more, I wouldn't have been any happier.
Yeah, yeah. I've actually got a boar behind me that I shot, and I've been asked many times to get the score for it. I'm like, I'll get there one day. I still haven't. It's literally right there. I'm like, I'm happy. I'm stoked. Oh, I got him. Yeah, I've got the
Yep.
memories, and I had a great weekend that weekend when I was away. But it's funny that yeah, it's been asked of me multiple times. Like, what do you score in the end? I'm like, yeah, I don't know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it only Australian species that you score, or you score? You recognize international ones as well?
I recognise international, but we don't have them in our main ratings for our Australian ones. There'll be a separate
Mm,
little category for overseas game or whatever, but it's not a really big thing, I suppose, because there's not many people shooting overseas game every year. So we'll have an
yeah.
award for the best exotic trophy, like overseas trophy shot for the year,
Hmm.
if they rate them with like some guys have shot some big Japanese seeker, or you know what I mean, or
Yeah.
fellow from overseas or something like that. But yeah, if they get them scored and rated, then absolutely, if it's a great trophy, we'll give it its due and say that's the best one for the year, sort of thing. New Zealand whitetail, whatever,
Hmm.
tar, chamois, all that sort of stuff. So
Yeah. And in
yeah,
regards to measuring then for those other animals, is there like a way you can check up how to do Douglas points on each and every single animal then?
uh no, well, I suppose it's only on really animals like New Zealand game, usually New Zealand reds or
Mm,
fallow or something like that, pigs, shot somewhere else, sort of thing. I don't think it's not like we're rating bighorn rams or
yeah, okay.
caribou or anything like that, sort of thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, I
And
suppose it's not really the place for it, really. But
no,
yeah, if
definitely.
someone wants to rate, yeah, overseas shot game, then we have it for mostly for our New Zealand game. It is, yep,
Yeah, okay. And there is it Boone and Crockett is the other scoring method, is that
yep,
right?
yeah. Or Pope and Young.
Pope and Young,
Pope and
that's the
Young's the
one.
bow hunting one. Yeah, Boone and
Yep.
Crockett's the rifle shot. Yeah, Pope and Young's bow shot game.
I didn't realize that was the difference. Okay, and so what's the difference between your Pope and Young and then your what's the one that we do here again?
Douglas.
Douglas, yeah. Sorry, it just
Yeah.
jumped off my tongue.
Douglas scoring, you double the shorter measurement instead of adding both sides as individuals. Does that make
Um,
sense?
yes, yep.
So if you've got a 20-inch brow tine on one side and a 10-inch on the other side, instead of going 20 plus 10 is 30, you'll
You've got
go
20.
double 10 is 20
Yeah.
because you're penalising because Norman Douglas was a New Zealand guy who invented the the system basically to score. He goes, well, we need something to score. We've got to figure out how to compare apples to apples.
Mm-hmm.
So his idea, like I suppose in New Zealand back in the day, the red deer were the main trophy, and for them it was a royal 12, like a perfect 12 was that, and they liked the symmetry of a
Mm.
good looking head that was even all the way around. And his theory was that if a deer's got a short antler on one side, then that's to be penalised because those antlers could get in and hurt the stag or kill the stag. So,
Yeah. Okay.
you know, it need to be like both sides need a counterpart.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why if it doesn't have, if it's missing a brow on one side, then you can't score. It won't score as a pair. It needs to have two to be a score. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah, it definitely does.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
So
kind of like that as a
so
concept, I
rewards
guess.
symmetry
Yeah.
and evenness. Yeah, and yeah. So I think it was more of an aesthetic thing and an ideal thing, but that's just how it is. And we've adopted it in Australia shortly thereafter, and yeah, it's been there for I'd hate to think how long, probably 67 years, maybe floating around the Douglas score. So
Do
yep,
we have a rifle variation as well, or we just do Douglas here
Douglas
in
score.
Australia?
Yep,
That's it.
yep,
Yeah. Okay.
Douglas. Yeah, Douglas is for all rifle shot, bow shot game in Australia and New Zealand. That's the main scoring method.
Yeah. And then in regards to trophy takers, like, do you ever have rifle shooters come along and say, "Hey, we've got these. Can you measure them up for us?"
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll do that. Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Excellent.
No
And,
dramas. Like if anyone, yeah, I know it's. I don't mind. I like measuring heads. It's good. Like it's just good to see what guys have been shooting and what's going on there. And I actually measured a head last night for one of the guys from Trophy Takers.
yeah.
He's like probably an hour away or whatever, and he says, "Oh, do you know anyone down in like Melbourne, Geelong?" I said, "Like I'm working down there at the moment." You know, like, swing on by. So he come around and we talked bow hunting for 3 hours.
How good.
Measured up his fellow
took
for him. Yeah.
took 10 minutes to measure
Shout
and
out to Lukey.
10 minutes to measure and 2.5 hours to talk. Eh?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
that's
back to
great.
back convo.
Any technical issues?
Bow hunting.
We missed all of it. Sorry, mate. The internet just cut out on you. They ruined your joke.
Gotcha. It was gold. I can't remember. It was back to back bowhunting conversations. That's where we were. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, excellent. And then so what stepped you into trophy hunters into the chairman position?
Um, Dave Whiting had been doing it for a long time. He had some health issues and that, so he's took a step back. And Mark Southwell popped up and did it for 3 years, and then he was just busy, and so I was just sort of game recorder and vice president, I think. And then I just said, yeah, well, we'll just do a swap. Like I'll do chairman, and you just do game recorder for a bit and give you a chop out. And we, yeah, no worries. So that was it.
Yeah, okay.
Just like the guys at the footy club, I suppose. When someone needs to step up, you step up, and that's it. Like
Yeah.
help
Yeah,
out your
definitely.
community. So just helping out the bow hunting community. So that's good for Dave. Like you can't keep him out of it though. Like he'll be there every awards, and he'll be up there front and center, giving the speeches and the awards and that. He still likes to be part of it, but I suppose he just doesn't have the
Capacity.
stress behind the scenes. I suppose of
Yeah.
running around and doing everything. It's sort of
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
Just leave that for everyone else now. He's done it for long enough. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I like that as well. Like giving back to the community that gives you as much and so much as well, right? It's nice to be able to do that.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. And that's the way I look at it because, I've served on football club, on the executive and as president and all that sort of stuff before. You just sort of got to, if they need a hand or it's your turn to stand up and pitch in, well, then it's your turn. And like you said, it's just my way of giving back. Like I'm not the greatest bow hunting, but I love it. I love bow hunting.
Hmm.
And it's just if I can do something to help out and keep, because to me, the annual awards, I love it because I catch up with some of my best mates every year
Yeah.
and we talk bow hunt for a whole weekend. You know what I mean? And even if we don't get out for a hunt that year or for a couple of years, we'll catch up and just the good networking, the
Hmm.
mates, and just
Yeah.
that sort of stuff. So, you wouldn't want to see anything like that slip by the wayside. So, yeah,
No,
it's
definitely
just
not.
step up and help out.
Like you're saying, best mates from all over the country too. That's also a nice thing to have, where you can,
Yeah,
yeah, have a friend in every state and be able to, yeah, bring them all together again. That's always a good thing to do.
Well, it is good because I mean, I worked, I'm an electrician and I do a lot of construction, major projects and that. And I worked up in Darwin at the gas plant up there for a few years.
Hmm.
And when I got up there, like straight away, some of the trophy take guys, oh, what are you doing? Like, do you want to come out this weekend? We'll
Yeah,
go
how
for a
good.
fish or something like that. You know, oh, we'll go for a hunt next weekend. Do you want to come out? It's like, yeah, absolutely. Like,
Yeah.
I'll be in that. And like, yeah, great mates. You know what I mean? And guys that I wouldn't have met if it wasn't for trophy takers. You know what I mean? But I'm up there and they're just straight away, yep, yep, no worries. You know, a couple of them come to Stewart Island with us and
Hmm.
it was great. Yeah. It's
Definitely.
just how you do, just networking, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I honestly don't see that many people. Like, I go to the gym every day. I see a fair few people there. Like, I'm in classes there and stuff, and I see people on like work call meetings and stuff. But realistically, a lot of weekends for us is either pre-filled up with things that we're doing as a family or whatever, or it's just like you just life gets on and you just don't see that many people. But really, I've probably had 5 hours of conversations with bow hunters already this week just on the phone, and it's just nice to have
Yep.
that mateship that you can always lean on as well. It's quite a beautiful thing.
Yep. Yeah, it is absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Like I think I don't know. To me, my bow hunting mates are some of my best mates because it's not only are they great friends, but they share my greatest passion in common. So it's just like another level to the friendship almost. So
Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. It's that camaraderie that's built through hardship as well. Not
Yeah.
those. I
Yeah,
mean,
absolutely. God, yeah. You've been through some interesting times and some mates in the bush, and yeah, I suppose, yeah,
yeah,
it's good.
just getting kicked in the nuts constantly. It's great, right?
Give me more.
Yeah, exactly. So sadistic of us. So if someone comes along, they're like, you know what, I've got a trophy. I would like to get it scored. What's the best way to
Yeah,
kind of get in touch with someone to be able to do that?
yeah. Trophy takers, we have a website, trophytakers.org.
Hmm.
So just search them up on the net, and there's all information like how to join, what we're about, all that sort of stuff. And there's also like click on the link or click on the drop down menu, and there's like all the game too. So you can click on and see the game. Click on the number one, number two, like the person and the score and all that sort of stuff, and you can see
Oh
like
wow.
all the top trophies in there as well. So yeah,
Yeah, very cool.
so you can do that, or just even reach out to myself or one of the other guys that are in trophy takers, just anyone that I think a lot of people know mates or whatever in the bow hunting community. It's not that big that we don't know someone that's in, trophy takers, or
Yeah.
of someone, or you could find out easy enough, I suppose. And yeah, just get in touch with anyone and we'll steer you in the right direction.
And then what's membership cost for? Is it yearly membership?
Yeah, yeah. So it's like got to think now. I think it might be shit. It's it would do yearly or 3 yearly, whichever way you want. I think
Yeah.
it might
Okay.
be $100 a year maybe, and
Yeah.
two or
Awesome.
$200 for 3 years.
Yeah.
That's it. And for a family, it's double that or whatever. So if there's or less than that,
Bring
it's
them
less
all
than
in.
that. So a
Yeah.
family might be like 160 for 3 years or something like that. We're
Yeah.
just trying to
Cool.
get people to join. It's better to have kids and families involved
Definitely.
than
Yeah.
making money. Like if we're not about making money, but I think we put our prices up for the first time like 5 years ago in Trophy Takers history. It's
Damn
just so
right.
we said, oh, we probably need to just bump it up just so we've got actually a little bit of money in the kitty for these trophies and for running,
Yeah.
events and the
We should
trailer to drag everything around
should
and all that
probably
sort of stuff. So
cover costs at least, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was getting a
Yeah.
bit skinny there at one stage, but we're okay. We're back on track now. We're all good.
That's
Yeah.
hilarious. Yeah. Yeah, I love the idea of bringing more families, more kids, more women into bow hunting in particular. And this stems off of another conversation I had this week actually about one of the ways that I think that we would be able to save bow hunting in the long run, because it seems like it's constantly under attack. I mean, really everything outdoors is constantly under attack at the moment. Full driving, picnicking, pretty much. Like yeah, camping, every like hunting of all sorts, it's all under attack. And I feel like getting more women into the sport is the thing that actually gives it a bit more of a foundation. So when anyone tries to vote against it and we put in polls or anything like that, they're seeing like, hey, it's not just men. Like there is women to it as well. It just gives it a bit
Yeah.
more of a backbone in that circumstance where it's like it's not a one sided thing. It's just not a toxic masculinity thing or whatever they'd want to try throw at it. Right? It's like, oh no, there is
Yeah.
actually both sexes. It's the way that we probably can put a little bit more oomph behind it to some degree. So I'm all for bringing in, yeah, everyone for it. It really, I
Yeah,
think it will help us out a lot.
yeah, and I think it's moving in that direction too. It's
I'd say so.
instead of being a one for the blokes, as it used to be, and now it's like when I started, I didn't know any female bow hunters. I don't think it was even a thing, to be fair. And
Yep.
and now there is, I can probably think of probably 15 or 20 that I know personally. You know what I mean? That
Yep.
women that bow hunt now. So it's good to see, and it's great. I think it's like you said. It's just it gets away from that stereotype. You know
It
what I
does.
mean? That
Yeah.
that macho, bloodthirsty killer, or whatever. And you see,
Hmm.
a lady that's just so happy that she's shot her first deer or something like that. And you go, people go, oh, okay, you do that too, do you? And sort of, yeah.
Yeah,
And
I love
and
it.
a lot of those ladies that do it, a lot of their friends don't,
Hmm.
but their friends just go, oh yeah, she likes going bow hunting. That's just what she does, sort of
It's
thing.
just her
So
thing.
that's
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
And so in regards to the trophy takers and having your events each year, do you get a fair few women rocking up to that? Like I know Alyssa Roseman's usually posting pictures and stories and things from the event. So are you getting a fair few women along to the events as well?
Yep.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, couple. Yeah, couple. Yeah, we usually get a few every year, so which is good. It's instead of being none, it used to be 10 years ago there's probably none or one,
Hmm.
but now there's probably three or four coming every year, sort of thing. So yeah, it's
Good. So
good.
it's like slowly in motion starting to happen. The dominoes are coming. It's having that
Absolutely. Yeah,
effect.
yeah.
Yeah.
Slowly building up. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. That's good to
Yeah.
hear. And then in regards to, I mean, all of the species that we have in Australia, and I don't know, is it 15 that we have that are shootable here in Australia?
Ten in Australia, like the big game species, I suppose. But so you got your 6 deer species:
Mhm.
pig, goat, buffalo, and banting.
Yep.
Trophy takers also have scrub bull. We have
Okay.
that as a rating
Yep.
because we think they're a pretty worthy trophy and adversary in their own right. There's nothing wrong. Like I don't know
Definitely.
why ABA doesn't have them. Like everyone likes to shoot a scrub bull if they're up north, so
Yep.
they're in there as well. Camel, wild dog, fox, cat. So I think that's about all our
So
categories.
that's
Yep, for
that's
Australian game.
13 or so. Fox and cat, in regards to that, like, what do you do for measuring the skull for a fox, cat, and
That's
a wild
skull.
dog?
Yep, yep. So all three are the same. So skull length, skull width, and the distance between the canines.
Ah, okay. Interesting. And so it's in between, are you measuring from like the middle of the teeth or literally just between the canines?
Between the base of the teeth. Yep.
Yeah, okay, interesting. Yeah, cool.
Yep. So like you look at some of like the feral cats, like you get a cat with a big wide head and he's got the how far apart the teeth are on them and that. So a big wide head obviously scores well on two fronts because it's got the width of the skull as well as the width of the between canines. So
Yeah.
yeah, they look pretty cool anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I can't regret not keeping my cat skull, to be honest, when I shot that a while ago.
Yeah.
They're so dense, to be honest. Like you look at it, you're like, oh, it's just a cat, and then you pick it up, you're like, oh my God, like they've got so much muscle
Yeah.
to them. Yeah.
Oh, I remember when I was probably about 19 or whatever, me and some mates who went out hunting and fishing out towards Wilcannia. And we went spotlighting. My mate shot with his 22, and I just see these eyes off the ground, and he's shooting. And I'm going, "What are you shooting?" I'm like, "You shooting a joey or something? What are you doing?" He goes, "It's a cat." And I was like, "What?" Because how high the eyes were off the ground. I was like, "That was a cat." And I said, "I got to run over and picked it up." It's like, holy crap! And it was bigger than any of the foxes we were shooting. This thing, you couldn't
Yeah,
get your hands
wow.
around it. Just like, holy crap! But yeah.
That's
Yeah,
hilarious.
they do get big, and but like it's just so dense and so muscular. They're not
Mhm.
soft. They're not a house cat. They're just a ball of pure muscle, and
Definitely. Yeah,
yeah,
it's like
pretty formidable.
the news reports that you get about the new Panthers in Australia. It's like, no,
Yeah,
it's just a big Tom.
just a cat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I always have a chuckle when I hear Joe Rogan go on about the bow hunting magazines in Australia, and he always points out the cats, and he's like, they just shoot house
The
cats,
cats. Yep.
like yeah, the cats everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, very very
Have you
different.
ever seen a camel skull?
I don't think I have. No.
They're pretty gnarly. Hey, I remember the first time I saw one of those, I thought it looked like an alien or something. I didn't know what the hell it was. They had this great big thing. They got massive canines on them too. So a camel skull looks pretty cool as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I do, the canines are they they're not an ivory of sorts of some sort, are they?
I suppose it is an ivory. I don't know. You could probably knock it out if you wanted, but
Yeah,
yeah.
wow.
But they
Because
look pretty cool in the skull. There's a whole skull. Yeah.
that was
They're
something
actually for
that
fighting. They fight with them.
with their canines.
Yeah, the bulls will bite each other when they fight. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's why
wow.
they've got canines.
Yeah, look at
Yeah.
that. They are pretty interesting characters. Jesus.
Yeah,
It
they're
looks like
pretty
a
nasty.
it's like
Like,
a
yeah.
dinosaur head.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty freaky.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, interesting. So I'd love to ask you about some of your hunts. I mean, in particular, I think it's a good place to start is actually your Stewart Island hunt. You went over with really few few all right blokes, I guess, to go bow hunting with, but
Yep.
probably had a bit of
Yep.
fun on that trip, I'd say. I actually was just watching some of the footage of you hopping off the boat and walking over with your whitetail. Pretty cool, hopping out
Yep.
with the longbow and walking along with the whitetail on your back. It's the glory walk once you got back home.
Oh yeah, it was a pretty stressful night that one. So I'm glad I got it. Yeah, it was the next day recovery that one. So
Oh, got
yeah,
you.
but yeah,
Okay.
no, it was yeah, but that was a pretty magic place like Stewart Island. Oh mate, I recommend every bow hunter do it. It's yeah,
Mm,
it's amazing. I know definitely like there's other blocks I suppose that might have a lot more deer on them as well. But if you can get a block where you've got access to the ocean
hmm.
and you get the whole Stewart Island experience, like catching blue cod.
Yeah.
If you're lucky enough to know someone that dives, drag them along and they can do all the diving and get some abalone and mussels and all that sort of crap and crayfish or whatever. And yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Like yeah, like some of those mornings, like cruising up the river in the tinny, like you. I'm probably getting ahead of myself here, but like just some of those things, you're going up the river in a tinny and it's just like glass,
Mm,
and you see the reflections. And some of the trees on that island are freaking massive. And I mean,
yeah.
like
Wow.
I think Willsey had one that he was sitting in, and I think he said it was 11 meters around the base, like walking around the base.
Jesus
It was
Christ.
just
Yeah.
huge. And
Huge.
just like you go past and you see some of these trees, and you just look at them, and you honestly, if there was a brontosaurus hanging off it chewing the leaves, I wouldn't have been surprised. It would
Yeah.
just, it was that, so it had that sort of feel to it. That place,
Yeah.
it was so remote, so yeah, definitely needs to be experienced. Words fail me, really.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah. It sounds incredible. And
it
so,
was
what about the actual whitetail and getting to find them and just them as a species? Like, how did you find, I guess, adapting to that skittish of a deer?
Yeah, it's basically centered around food
Mm,
sources for them.
mhm.
They're all pretty runty and pretty bony sort of animals there. I think they're probably overpopulated the island because there's not that much of a food source for them.
Is it just the
So,
broadleaf and that's all they can eat, or is there other
well,
things they can get to?
they do eat a lot, but I think the broadleaf and a couple of other trees are so preferred that like I don't even think I saw saplings of them. I think once they hit the ground, they just
Done.
get mowed down. So the only ones I ever saw that were like newer trees. They must have a berry or something. How they seed, how they germinate, and some birds must eat it in their droppings, and it lands in the fork of a tree,
Yeah,
and then a tree will be growing out of that fork of the tree, like the roots will be going like a creeper down to the ground, and then a broadleaf coming up from the top
yeah.
where the
Wow.
whitetail can't reach it.
Yeah,
They're the only ones that I saw. Otherwise, they were full mature trees, like big trees. There were no small trees.
yeah. Isn't that interesting?
So I think they just rely on them that heavily.
Hmm.
They're just that starved basically. That yeah. So they'll just if there's broadleaf trees, there's not all of them, but the majority of them will have like deer pads going by them.
Yeah,
So the deer will do the beat, and if there's like a storm, if it's windy or something like that, and it blows down a couple of trees, then the deer will be going
they're done.
past, picking up. Yeah, they'll go past, hoover up the leaves, and walk on to the next one and do the rounds doing that sort of
The
thing.
old
So yeah,
locust
yeah,
effect. Yeah,
basically,
yeah. Wow.
yeah. So we just went there with trail cameras.
Hmm.
And that we were lucky. Casey McCallum was the one who organised the trip, so he'd been
Yeah.
there previously a couple of times and successful shooting a good whitetail buck. So he said he saw the potential for it to be a really good group trip.
Mm.
So we basically, I think you could fit 12 people on one of the charter boats that go from mainland New Zealand out to Stewart Island.
Yeah.
So we said, all right, let's get 2 blocks. So we got 2 blocks and then got 12 guys to lower the overall cost of
How
getting
good.
the boat. So
Yeah.
back then, it was probably 2018, I think, when we went, and it worked out less than 2 grand for the whole trip, like airfares,
Wow.
travel,
That's so good.
flights, logistics, food, everything, like the whole lot. Yeah, it was cheap as chips, really.
So I had Toby
So,
Hines come on and do a recap of his one, and I think he said it was 5 grand, but I think that they didn't have that many people on the boat. Like they had,
no, then that's the thing because that's your biggest cost.
yeah,
So when we did it, we went with 10 or 12 guys to actually bring that whole cost down.
yeah,
So
definitely.
it basically halves your main cost for the trip.
Wow, yeah, that's
So
incredible.
that would have got it from 5 grand down. Yeah. So yeah, but Macca saw the potential of it being such a good thing. So it was great because the deer aren't crack of dawn and then disappear. They can sort of filter out throughout the day, sort of thing. So it was
Mhm.
gentlemen's hours. It was like get up whenever you wanted to get up. You might have had a few rums that night or a couple of beers or whatever, and
Yeah.
get up whenever you get up and stretch the legs. No, I might go for a fish, and you go for a fish, and it's getting, after midday. Oh, I might go for a hunt, and you jump in the tinny and you cruise up to where your tree stand is and go and sit up there for a few hours and shiver away.
Yeah. So your tree stand is effectively just climbing up the biggest tree you can find that's in a goodish location next to a pinch or something.
Uh, no, a lot of us took tree stands.
Okay.
Some guys took just sat up in the trees or whatever, but I suppose you dictated to if it's a suitable tree or not. So
Mm.
I just wanted to put one sort of near a good broadleaf tree. So sorry, going back to Casey. So Mac has said that the way you do it, you walk around, you find your areas, look for your trees, put up trail cameras. So he said,
Mhm.
like, take multiple trail cameras, stick them up around several trees, and then basically you'll see whichever ones are getting the deer. That's where you want to see your stand up. It's like, okay, so that's how we did it, sort of thing. So I put them out, and I sort of had two out of the four were getting traffic going past them on that
Yep.
first day that I had them out. Went right, I'll just, pardon me, pick that one that had a buck on it. So I went, right, that's me. I'll sit at the one where the buck was. So I sat there and the buck never come back.
Of
But
course.
yeah, about 3 or 4 days later, I think a doe and her yearling came back. So she'd already been on the camera a couple of times. So
Hmm.
yeah, she came back, and I think it was just getting on dark. So she sort of, I saw like a tail flick, a white tail, like their flag, like
Yeah.
as they're walking and feeding, they flick it around, and I saw a flick, and I was like, that's a deer, and it's pretty dark under that canopy too, as
Mm.
the sun's setting, and not that there
Hmm.
was much sun there either, but as the as the sun went down and the overcast day lost its meager light, you sort of see just like in shades of grey, really.
Yeah,
You
wow.
could see a flick, and it's like, okay, and then another one, it's like, okay, it's going to come out of that tree over there, looking, waiting, and it would have been 35 meters away, and then suddenly, probably 20 meters away, a deer pops up out of the ferns and just
Yeah,
was
wow.
like, where did you get there? Like, I
Yeah.
think they actually can travel under the ferns because the ferns are so big.
Yes. Yeah.
So you won't actually see them, and they're pretty soft. Their fur too. It's
Mm.
more like fur than hair.
Yeah.
What they have. So they're pretty quiet too, and they've got dainty little feet as well. They're tiny. They're about the size of a fallow yearling.
Yeah, wow.
So they're not an
Very
overly
small.
large. Yeah,
Yeah.
not an overly large deer.
Yeah.
So yeah. So she came up sort of snooping around the tree, her and the yearling, and I thought, well, she doesn't have antlers, so she's got a bigger skin, so I'll shoot her rather than the yearling. So we'd already got a couple on the meat pole out the back of the hut. So
Yeah.
yeah, I just slipped the arrow through her. Luckily, did a pretty good shot, and she took off. And by that stage, it was just about dark anyway,
Hmm.
and it started to rain then as well. I was like oh god, here we go. So I just didn't want to push it. Didn't want to push, risk bumping her, and because I thought if she dies in that crown fern, I might not ever have I
Uh-oh. We've lost Steve. Here he is. He's coming back in. There we go. Got you back.
Okay, cool.
So essentially we got to where it cut off was you just didn't want to push her because if she died in the ferns, and that was about where I heard to.
Yeah, it's just like those ferns are so thick, and some of them
Mm.
like waist to chest high. Some of them, and if she died anywhere in them, it's like you'd never find it unless you're
No.
crawling around your hands and knees. So it's just like, oh, I'll leave it. I won't push it. The hit's pretty good, like good blood on the arrow. I'll just walk out. So I walked back down the boat, and I think Casey was down there. Had a chat with him and told him, and he said no, he hadn't seen anything. And sort of said, oh, he was going back to camp, and we had two tinnies there, so he
Hmm.
went back, and I just stayed and waited for Butcher Ben Solaris to come back.
Yeah.
And I was waiting, and I was just like, oh, it would have been like an hour and a half or something like that before he finally come back down. It's like, hey, he goes, how'd you go? How'd you go? And I, run down the story, told him what happened. He's like, how'd you go? He goes, oh yeah, had a doe come in and shot her, and and then I waited and waited, and then goes, and then a buck come down. He told me about how he shot his buck, and I was like, you serious? And then he put his backpack down. There's the antlers on the back of his pack, like
Yeah.
the
Wow.
8 point buck, and I just, oh, it was a good buck too. Like,
Yeah.
so they're small. They're small, but you could tell it was a good mature buck, like 8 point, beautifully stained antlers. Yeah, it was just, I was like, oh. And that night was the night that we'd organised for the other crew to come over to our hut, and
Oh,
we're going to have
awesome.
like a big cook up, big feed. So of course we rock up last, late after everyone else, and Butcher's got the buck on his backpack, and everyone's a few beers in by that stage, and it
Yeah,
was
of
on. The
course.
stories are getting told, and everyone
A,
was just going off. It was a great night. Yeah,
a few rough heads
feast of
were
pigs.
left over, I can imagine.
Oh yeah, well, I couldn't get much rougher. So
It's always interesting when you get a few bow hunters together in camp, isn't it?
oh, it's great. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And then that infectious enthusiasm was just
Hmm.
just next to the level, something like that. Yeah, because that's what we'd all be went there hoping for. Oh, you wish, I wish I could get a buck like that.
Yeah, of
Imagine if you got
course.
a buck like that, and then there's one in camp there, and everyone's just like looking at it, just going, oh wow, and
Yeah.
run their fingers through the cape and checking it out, and yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's really
Yeah.
cool. The next one I wanted to ask you about was actually your scrub ball. I'm a big fan of the old bovine species. It's not one that I've gone after yet. It's definitely something that's on the cards, and I'd love to make it happen soon. I have had some conversations about making it happen too, up in the Northern Territory and going after some. So hopefully, the scrub ball is actually higher on my list than what a buffalo is, I would say, to be honest. And I don't know why that is. It's just what's kind of more interesting to me. I'm not
What
saying
floats your boat? Yeah.
yeah, I'm not saying that I wouldn't hunt buffalo. Like, yes, give me give me a buffalo as well. I'd love that. But yeah, it's just the scrub ball has always been very high on my list, and so I think especially taking it with the longbow, it just seems like a pretty cool feat to go through. So give us the rundown of that one.
Well, I'll let you know when I shoot one. I haven't got one yet.
Oh, I swear I'd seen one on your page.
No, I've shot two buffalo, but
Two
yeah, no, I haven't got a
buffalo.
scrubble yet. Yeah,
That's interesting. Well, tell us about
had
your
a couple of.
buffalo.
Yeah, well, there you go. I can tell you about buffalo.
Yeah.
Even though you're not interested in them, I can tell you. Fine, if you're going to feel like that, man, I'll just tell
Yeah.
someone else.
Well, we've got a few
Uh,
listeners, so you can
um,
tell them instead, hey?
yeah, righto, righto. Yeah, so yeah, it was when I was working up in Darwin, and yeah, we'd gone out with the boys, like one of the Darwin boys is taking me out and cruising around. We're just looking for pigs actually out in the floodplains and walking around, and I walked around all day, and I think I'd seen one boar the whole day,
Hmm.
and that was it. And it's like, oh, and we're walking back, and then it was just on dark, and then sort of come out of the trees, and there was some buffalo there. I was like, holy crap, like buffalo. And I'd only just got the longbow actually, like the heavier longbow.
Yep.
And I was just like, and he goes, oh, well, one way to test out your longbow if it's going to be good enough for a buffalo. I was like, oh, yeah, right. I wasn't too sure about this. It's like, okay, now I'm faced with the situation. I'm not too sure. And it was pretty open. It was out like once I stepped out of the paper box, that was it. I think there was no cover for, the 200 meters that it was to the buffalo sort of thing. It's like, oh, and it was nearly dark. So I said, look, just go for it. Don't muck around. Just walk straight towards them. And because at this time of night, their eyesight's a little bit funny, like in that sort of half light.
Yeah, okay.
So I said, just go for them. It goes, and then you might just get lucky. You might get close enough, and you might get away with, getting close enough for a shot. So I went, all right, so here I go, trudging along,
So
longbow in
what's
hand.
what's close enough for you in this circumstance?
Oh, probably I wanted to be 15 meters.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Yep. So I was worried. The guys had said before, like, because they, shoot them with their compounds, and sometimes they only one lung them. And he says, if you one lung a buffalo, you're not going to get him.
No.
He'll just keep walking. He'll just keep walking and walking. You'll never get him. So
Yeah.
I wanted to be close enough. I was only shooting 65-pound longbow.
Yeah.
So I was like, right, well, I need to be close enough to make this one count, sort of thing. I can't be lobbing at him from 50 meters. It's not going to do much.
Yeah.
So just straight into him, just quick walk, just doubled over in the long grass and just made a beeline towards him. And then I think he sort of probably got to about 25, and he's sort of just a young bull, just sort of looked at him and he's just like, what the heck's that? And he's with a few cows. So he's like, on the big fella here, I've got a couple of cows. What do you think you're doing, sort of thing? And he's did that old like look down his nose at me and just come straight towards me. I was just like, oh no. I was like sinking down in the grass, like Homer melting into the bushes. I was just like, oh, just like trying to make myself small and disappear, and it didn't work. And he come right, and I don't know, he probably come into 10 meters, hey? Like he come in really close, and I just went right then. There's like a light bulb moment. I was like, this is what they mean by too close for comfort. I was just like, I was not comfortable with him being that close to me, and like how he was looking at me. I was just like, nah. And I just like, I don't care what happens. And I just like backed out like another 10 meters until I was comfortable again. It's like, okay. And he just stayed there looking at me. I was like, well, I can't just sit here looking at him. I've got to make something happen. So I just sort of started circling around so I could get broadside, because he was just looking down his nose, chest onto me.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to shoot him down front on, because I thought, well, if I shoot him front on, he's just going to come straight at me. So that's what I thought of. But
yeah.
I was just like circled around to the left, sort of trying to keep the same distance or whatever. And then he sort of didn't. And then so he just sort of followed me. He just sort of like, okay, I'll go that way with you. And then I sort of went left, and he's going, oh, I'll go that way with you.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this isn't working. It's like, I'll give it one more go. It was nearly dark. So one more. And he just stayed broadside and just turned his head. And I kept walking. And he just stayed broadside. He obviously got sick of spinning around. And I was like, okay, I'm actually broadside. And there was a bigger tuft of grass between us, and it was probably 15 meters from him. So
yeah,
I just got down low, had a narrow knocked, and just went into that grass, and then drew the bow and came up, and he was still there looking at me broadside. I went righto and just shot him in the triangle, and he just spun and took off. And I was just lay down in the grass, like, please don't trample all over me. But he went the other way. I was like, okay, that works. And he probably went about 50 meters. And then he just stood there. And then the cows, they must have smelt the blood, and they all got really narky. They come at me like a rugby scrum. Four of them shoulder to shoulder. They were bobbing their heads and throwing their heads around. And I thought, oh Jesus, I can't handle this. So I was back out of there. I was like, I can't handle this. This is too much for me. So they tired of that after a minute or two, and they took off. And
so you just up and run
the whole time. Hey?
Did you just up and run?
No. They took off.
Oh, got you. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the cows got sick of it, so they just walked away.
Yeah.
And I looked up, and the bull was just still standing there. He'd only gone the 50 meters and just was standing there, not moving. And I was like, I think I've hit him pretty hard. So it's sort of like I'd shot him on the right side, and he was sort of, I could see his left side. So I thought, if I can sneak in and get an arrow on that side, then that's both lungs and he's done.
Yeah.
So I sort of started sneaking in. I got to about sort of 40 meters, and I thought, he's a pretty big animal. I'll just have one from here. I thought, don't be silly. He's just standing there. He stood there for like 5 minutes. Just get in there and shoot him. So I snuck in, and as I was sneaking in, I probably got to about 15 meters, and then he laid down.
Yeah, okay.
I was like, well, this is a good sign. So I snuck into about, I don't know, probably closer than 10 meters, and I just pulled back as far as I could pull back to make sure I drove him, and it just went into the knock, just disappeared into him virtually.
Yeah.
And that was it. Just like gave a bellow and just his death moan and just rolled onto his side, and that was it.
Yeah,
Done.
okay. So you reckon he would have been done anyway? It's just just the one to follow up with.
Yeah, he was done. He wasn't going anywhere, mate. Yeah.
So this was the scrubble I was thinking of, and so it was one that you had seen when you were up there, and you just hadn't actually taken it. That was the difference. I knew I'd seen a scrubble on your page. I was like, I swear I'm not going crazy.
Yeah. yeah, that was up the Cape. Yeah, that one there. There was a few wild ones in that mob there. There's some great looking bulls, but yeah, they were we were there. We went to a waterhole to look for some boars, or like we'd gone out to this waterhole a fair way away from everywhere, thinking there'd be some good pigs on it. And these scrubbles come up, and there was just like 50 meters of open ground between us. And it was
Mm.
just like, oh, I'm not crossing open ground with 20 of you blokes hanging around looking like that. Like they were
Yeah, they're
pretty
pretty
intimidating looking
beastly.
bulls, those ones. So it was like, yeah, no. I think Ben actually shot one in the ass with a blunt out of his recurve. He just went, oh, we've got to get rid of these things. We can't sit here or not. We've got to get to this swamp. So he just like launched one, hit one in the ass, and
Did it show
they
them
all
off?
took off, and we were out of there, and I shot a boar after that. So
How
yeah.
good. How good. That's hilarious. What about your other buffalo?
Yeah, so that was another trip up to Arnhem Land
Yep.
with the same mate, up the territory. And yeah, he sort of said, what are you doing this weekend? I was like, oh, working Saturday, Sunday off. He goes, oh, do you want to come to Arnhem Land? He's like, yeah, I'll be sick Saturday. I'll be coming in. So we went right out to like far east Arnhem Land. Like I think we're pretty close to the coast nearly
Hmm.
out there, sort of thing towards. I think it's called Nooka, the community out there. So we went out that way, and yeah, we're just cruising along, and we'd seen some good buffalo. Like we were cruising around with the main traditional owner of the area, the old fella. I think he just passed away actually not too long ago. But yeah, and we were cruising around with him, and we'd seen a few bulls, and I had a couple of stalks, and don't think I'd had a shot. Yeah, I don't think I'd had a shot. Just had a couple of unlucky stalks, just like trying to pull the bow back, just doing it too quickly, and they've caught the movement
Yep.
when you're that close. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
When you're under 20 meters, they got good eyesight. Buffalo, really good eyesight. Like they're not dumb, they're not silly, they're just not scared of you.
Yep.
So they'll sit around and look at you a little bit longer. But anyway, we were cruising along, and we're just walking along, and this buffalo just run out the bush and just stopped in front of us. And we're just like, righto. So he just sort of looked at us, and I just like quickly got an arrow out, and he took off, and I just sort of shot him on the run and just hit. I didn't lead him enough and just hit him a bit far back. I was like, oh, this isn't good. Like walking around with the main TO, and I shot this buffalo too far back. So I just took off, and I just actually run after him and just run after him. I thought, oh, I'll just keep running until he stops and has, stops and looks around. So he stopped and turned around, and I sent one down the neck down
Yep.
there. And that's a really good shot on a
That's
buffalo.
like
Like,
the most vital, isn't it? Essentially on them.
oh yeah, yeah. There's no ribs or nothing to hit.
Yep.
The skin, it's just skin, and then you're just
Most
straight into
lethal
the heart
shot.
and lungs down
Yep.
there. Yeah, and he took that probably only about 6 inches from the Fletchers. It penetrated like pretty deep,
Yep.
and he spun. He didn't go much further than that. That was it. I gave him one more finisher just to make sure,
Yeah.
just
Wow.
rather than him sitting there for too long. But yeah, got him, and we chopped him all up, and I think we managed to get the car and got him. I mean, pretty much drove the car up to him,
Yeah. Wow.
and so we took all the legs back to the community, so they were all stoked. So
Yeah. How good. Nice to be able to give
yeah,
back to them.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, it's funny, like in those sort of communities, they don't have access to be able to hunt themselves. You know what I mean? Like that they can hunt, but they don't have any guns. They don't have any bows or anything like that. You know what I mean? So they can't actually shoot a buffalo or shoot a scrub bull. So
Yeah. Okay.
if they have to buy their meat from the shop, or from, there's a bloke in the community that goes, oh, I'll shoot a scrub bull for you for $500 or something like that. You know what I mean? So, and
Yeah.
give you the meat. So that's it. So they're pretty grateful when they do get some.
Yeah, definitely. And so, I mean, you've actually hunted pigs all over the country then, essentially. Like, have you gone all the way up the East Coast and in the center, center of the North? Have you been over to Western Australia hunting at all?
No, no, I never hunted over there. No.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
I'm guessing you've gone and I mean, even just looking over your page, there's definitely a few of the different types of pigs essentially that we have on offer here throughout Australia. I think there's like six species essentially that are kind of intertwined and mingled to make all the different variations. It's very interesting as you go up and down the coastline. You see almost like a long-legged pig with a long snout, and then you've got like
Yep.
your short, stumpy ones. And then you just got the big old body like razorbacks and stuff. It's
Yep.
kind of cool to see the different ones. Where like I mean, just tell us about maybe your favorite two or three pig stories that you've got as well.
Um, yeah, right. Well, my first ball was an interesting one. So that was again up in the territory, with the boys up there, and sort of went for a walk out there, cruised around the floodplain. I saw this this boar, and he was a proper old handbag. He was all skin and bones, and I could see like he had a big wound on his side and all that sort of stuff. I was like, geez, he's copped a flog on this pig, you know. I was like, I'll sneak in that. So I just sort of sat and waited because he was feeding around the edge of a lagoon. I thought, oh, I can't get around there without the wind stuffing me. So I'll just let him feed closer to me, and then the wind will still be right. And as he gets closer, I should be able to have a shot. And he was taking forever, this pig. And I was like, oh, for God's sake. So I was just like, I lay down the grass and just sort of popped up and had a look at him for after a bit. And he must have caught the movement. He's like, oh, what's that up there? And he thought it must have been another pig. And he just started walking towards me. I was like, oh, shit, right, better get ready. He is. He's walking, and he walked in and he's sort of like, oh, I don't think you're a pig. And he took off. So I shot him on the run, and once again didn't give him enough lead and hit him sort of just like through the liver sort of thing. Just hit him that little bit far back, and it's just like, oh, but he was running towards all that long grass. And I was just like, oh no, I can't let him get in there. I don't want to be following him up in all that sort of crap. He'll probably have a go at me sort of thing. So I sort of run around. I did a bit of a circle as he ran across, because he wasn't running very fast. He was pretty hard hit, but I just wanted to stop him getting in there.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of just did a bit of an arc and cut in front of him, and he sort of stopped and he looked at me, and he sort of looked to go back, and he's like, looked at me, he's like, nah. And then he's like dropped his head down. I was like, oh shit, like he's going to have a go. Like, and he chopped his tusks, and I went, oh, and I remember just saying, oh no, you don't. And then the next thing I knew, I'd shot, and I hit him right smack between the eyes, and it dropped him like it hit him with a 458. Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, that was that photo. It just dropped him, like the legs folded from under him, and that was it. And I wasn't sure if I just stunned him or what. And he was dead. Like just that broadhead just went like bottomed out in his brain there, somewhere in the back of the skull cavity.
Outcome,
Just
hey?
yeah, absolutely walloped him. Yeah, it's like, oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
Sometimes the instinct isn't too bad, but yeah, that was a pretty good one. That was
exactly.
It was pretty good because it was so dead center. I actually kept the whole skull, and I've got that. So I've just got just placed the broadhead in the broadhead hole.
Yeah.
So he's just got the broadhead mounted in his
That's
forehead.
Awesome. That's great.
Sitting on the mantelpiece.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
And there's that was in the territory.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say it's not ideal, but the old liver shot, it definitely pulls up an animal very quickly. I accidentally shot a deer a bit far back in the liver, and I got a follow-up shot very quickly after, because he pretty much just bedded straight down. Like he took probably, I'd say 30 meters, and then bedded up. And he's like, nope, this is not good. Yeah,
well, it's pretty major organ, and there's some serious artery and vein coming in and out of there. So you hit that, they're pretty crook. They lie down pretty quickly.
It's the lethal shot that all the Yanks take, right? The old shoot as far back as you can.
Yeah, middle of the middle they seem to shoot. Yeah, well, that's interesting, because those whitetail, their lungs do go a long way back.
Yeah, okay.
It's surprising, because when I shot, I was like, I shot that doe. I was like, I don't know. Is it too? Like I said to Mac, he goes, "Oh, where'd you shoot it?" It's like, it might be a little bit far back. I said, "Oh, probably 2 inches behind the crease." He goes, "Oh no, that's perfect." He goes, "That's middle of the lungs." I was like, "You serious?" He goes, "Yeah, that's middle of the lungs for a whitetail." I was like, "Okay."
Yeah, well,
and it was. Yeah, she only went 30 meters, so I was like, "Okay,
yeah, that
works." But yeah.
Yeah. I actually meant to ask you that before about the old whitetail, because obviously that's a long night, like you said. You said before you actually even got to that part of the story that was a long night's wait, but were you somewhat confident in the shot, and you knew that she was down, or it was just a whole night of hoping?
No, you're never confident, really. I'm not. Like, you just sort of think, I'm never, 100%. I've been disappointed before, so you just sort of go, "Oh, I'll believe it when I see it." Sort
exactly.
of thing,
Till it's in your hands.
Just got to get the job to find it. And I was like, set myself the task. Right, I got there early. Said, right, there 9 o'clock in the morning. Right, I'm going to spend the whole day looking. If I have to spend the whole day, and I was like, well, that's a good outcome.
Yeah, definitely.
That's far easier than I thought. But yeah.
And so another pig story.
Toomba Station. I went up there chasing the chiddle with some mates, and we're cruising around, and we'd had our ass handed to us for a few days in a row. And one of my mates, Jeffro, you know Jeff Rankmore, I think you know him, do you?
Yeah, I know Jeff.
Yeah. So Jeffro was there, and he sort of said, "Oh, so what do you reckon, Jeff? We go hunt some pigs at Savo?" He goes, "Yeah, I reckon we'll go." We'll say, "Let's take a break from these deer. Let's go suss them out." So we went out and out to this swamp, and they took us out there. I don't know where, I think 9 Mile or 13 Mile or the name of this swamp. I don't know. People who've been there might know it, but yeah, we went out to this swamp, and first up was Jeffro, and he's seen a boar, so he went out and he shot this boar, and he's like, "Yep, beauty." So he got his, I think it's his first tusks sort of thing. So he was pretty proud. And then we cruised along, and I think we put up another couple just trying to get to this swamp. Like there were just some pigs, some big boars. They sounded like they were big boars, and just some close stuff as we were marching, trying to get to the swamp before it got dark. And we got out to this swamp and looked, and there was it. Oh, I hate to think how big it was. It would have been like, I don't know, 300 acres at least we could see of swamp. And there was
Wow.
just one black and white pig just close to us, just there. It's like, yep, you'll do. Black lone boar. So snuck down and went down in, like got in close to him and shot him, and he took off running, and I thought, oh, it wasn't a bad shot. He took off, and I was like, I just want to get one more into him before he goes, sort of thing,
Mhm.
because he was like running across the land to swim across the swampy part, and then he was off into the tall grass.
Yeah.
So I chased him, and then when he stopped, it might have been like he swam across and then stopped at the other side, and I was standing on the bank waiting for him, and he
Hmm.
stopped and turned to look, and I shot him again, like I hit him on the other side, like same shot, perfect,
Yeah.
like both one either side. Is like, right, he's done, sort of thing, and I just chased him, and like every time he stopped, I just shot him again, and he's like, he's tough, this thing. He just kept going. They were all good shots. I think one of the arrows hit another arrow on the way in and like cut me carbon with the broadhead.
Mm.
I think, and I shot my whole quiver on him. I gave him every arrow I had, and every arrow was in the lungs
Yeah,
and the
it's
heart.
just a good example of the old adrenaline and what it can do for them, right?
Yeah, yeah, because he actually had, I think he had a broken hip or something, because he was running with one leg off the ground,
Yeah,
and he was
wow.
sore, and you could tell he was gnashing his tusks, and you could just like, if I could run, he goes, I'd get you so bad. That's how you could just, his body language. He was just like angry and just wanted to get me. I was like, not today, you don't, sunshine. Just kept feeding him arrows till I was out, and he just fell over, and just like, I was like, holy shit. And then Milton comes out to me and goes, "What are you doing chasing pigs, you mad bastard?" It's like, well, I didn't want him getting that long grass, you know.
Oh,
I've heard enough
God.
horror stories about pigs up the basalt wall in the long grass. So
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
I
That's
just
hilarious.
watched Jeff and Jesse. I just watched Jeff experience it, so I didn't want to. I didn't want to
It's
be
the same
myself.
thing. Yeah. And then how about and it might just be that you've already told us some of them, but near misses or close encounters where it was almost looking a little bit hairy for yourself. Forgot you.
Um,
Yep.
Probably, yeah, probably that buffalo was the main one, really. Like, but I stalked in on, and yeah, there was two bulls that same trip of that. The perfect scrub bull I wanted. He was like brindle. He had the Brahman hump on his back, and
Hmm.
he just looked mean. I was like, yep, that's one. Good horns on him. You're the one I want. The other one was just like a shorter horned, Hereford style looking one. It's like, nah, I want them. I want the scrub. I want the mean looking one. So
Yeah.
they were just they weren't bedded. They were just like standing under the shade of a tree, like one facing each way. And I snuck in, and they'd been walking for a little bit, and I just sort of kept walking away from, like, we were driving somewhere. So my mate said, "There's some scrubbers." So I jumped out and kept walking. Would have gone a few hundred meters before they'd pulled up under the shade of a tree and just sort of stopped there. And I thought, oh, I just want to get a bit close. I could just shot the other one, but the angle wasn't right on that one that I wanted to shoot. So I just
Hmm.
sort of like worked my way around to get a better angle, and so I'd get a little bit closer, got a bit closer, and then he spotted me. And he's just his demeanor has changed. He's just gone from
Mm.
just chilling out the shade to he's looked at me, and he's just like lowered his head, and he's like, oh, spotted, damn it. And then he's started pouring at the ground like a rodeo bull,
Oh
before
God.
they charge. And he was
Yeah.
just going, I was like, oh, shit. And I just sort of looked, and I've gone, probably walked about 400 meters from the car. Like, Grego doesn't have any idea where I am. I've just followed these two scrub balls out in the middle of Arnhem Land. I was like, I probably shouldn't be here on my own. Like, I just thought, nah, I'll just sort of back out. And I just sort of started walking backwards, and he's looking at me the whole time with his head lowered and scraping the ground. He's just like, righto, mate, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
You're on your own. I'll leave you to it. Yeah,
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Far out.
So, but yeah, but I've been pretty lucky. I don't think I haven't shot a heap of pigs, and so I'm probably just that one that went to charge me, and I've stopped him before he did. But I haven't actually been charged by pigs, but I'll tell you what, I'll tell you a good one. My mate Raghead, he did though. I don't know if you one of our mates down here, Shane Japel. So we were up at Strathburn,
Yep.
Cayuga, and he shot he shot a pretty big ball, and it took off, and then the wind was sort of, he could smell it. Oh, not he could smell it. The pig could have smelt us because he was running with our wind, and
Mm.
and Ian Summers was with us. He goes, "Don't worry about it. He'll smell you. You'll never get onto him. Just leave it. We'll go find another one." And Shane mustn't have heard, and he just sort of I'll keep on him. I'll keep on him. So he just kept running. So he goes, don't worry, he'll give up. And so anyway, we've gone for a walk. I had my young fella Phoenix with me at the time. He was probably about 10 or 12 years old, I think then. So he was walking around, and we chased a few mobs of pigs, and I think I shot a sow, and Phoenix was there, and we've seen a few other mobs and that sort of stuff. And walking back to the car, and Ian's going, "Where the bloody hell Shane? Like I haven't seen. He hasn't come back." And he let out a couple of cooees, and it's like, oh, he won't because he took off that direction. We thought he won't hear because the wind's coming straight to us.
Yep.
And when the wind stopped, and I let rip a cooee, and then I heard this faint, and it was like, oh yeah, he's over there. So I gave him another couple just so he sort of knew where we were, and we were heading, and walked a little bit further to the car, and I gave him another one just so he knew, like, we're heading this way, back to the car. And then I hear this cooee again, and it's like, I wonder if, and Ian goes, I wonder if you found that boar. And it's like, oh, yeah, I don't know. Let's go see. So anyway, we've gone over there. We walk in the direction, and he goes, oh, there he is. He goes, oh, shit, the boar's up him. And all you can see is this dust and all this stuff. And then Shane's running in circles, and this boar. And I was like, holy crap. So I've just started running towards him, and I've run over to him. And he's standing there. I said, you're right, mate, you're right. And he was shaking. He's just like, oh, he's got eyes like poached eggs. He's like, I'm down to my last arrow. Like, if you know Shane, he usually carries about 28 on his bow quiver. And anyway, it's just broken off arrows. Anyway, this boar he was a big boar too. He would have been over 90 kilos easy. He was like pushing 100. And he had his razorback was up. All his
Oh God.
hackles were up, and he's chopping his tusk, and he's carrying on. He's clicking and grunting, and he's gone back into this stand of saplings. And in this stand of saplings are all these broken arrows. Every time Shane would sneak in to have a shot or he'd shoot him, this boar would come running out, snap the arrows off on the way, and up him. And he actually hit him on the shins, and he had tusk marks on his shins from where the boar hit him. And he rolled backwards. He did a somersault, rolled backwards, and came up with his bow, like, and like put his recurve in the boar's face, and just like screamed at him and just jammed it in his face. And he's gone back to the thing, and he said, and he was like, he hit hard, but he was just a big old cranky bastard, same thing, like full of adrenaline. And he just went and he sat in, and Shane was going, he goes, I'd sit there, and he was there, and he's just like, okay, he's just like sitting there with his eyes closed. He's just about stuff. So he'd sneak in, and he'd get closer, and he'd step on a dry leaf, go, and the boar's ears would come up. And he's another step, and then his eyes would open, and then chop, 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 chop the tuxedo, and then he'd come out again.
Oh God.
And he'd shoot him again, and he'd run. So this had been going on for half an hour in the whole time that we've been off chasing other pigs or whatever. And poor Shane, he's covered in sweat, and he's shaking, and he's just like, oh my God. But yeah, so
Oh, what an experience.
Shane's got a couple of good stories. I've got a couple good stories from mates, but yeah, lucky I wasn't on the receiving end. So
I've heard I've heard of Raghead just because of they gave him the name Raghead because he just used to wear a rag on his head, right? That was his whole thing. He used to use that rather than a hat, wasn't it?
yeah, it was just like, the old army surplus swung from disposal, like that camo netting, like you'd drape over, or you'd wrap it around his head or whatever, and that was it. He goes, oh, because down the back of your neck and keep the sun off or whatever, and that, and it's just like a bit of 3D or whatever you can. So he'd usually wear like a little short brim hat, and he'd just wrap that around it or whatever, and that was it. So one of the boys called him Raghead, and we just thought it was hilarious. So he's just been called Raghead for the last 35 years.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, it is interesting, the old near misses. It's funny how many small things can happen in the bush. Like it can just change very quickly, and that's a perfect example of it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember
it's true. It's like this one just like throwaway come in. Don't worry, don't chase him. And and the next thing you know, it's like you take one turn and you go the other way, and the outcome's pretty different. So
yeah. I
he's
remember
pretty good.
shooting a pig once, and it was a small pig, like a little, not a mini piglet, but it was with the pack. And then the sow came over and she is like, what's going on here? Just like the
Yeah.
noises she was making.
Yep.
I went from being a very big man to a very like scared child. All of a sudden, I was like, "What the fuck is happening here?" Like the noises she was pulling at me. It's one of the
Oh,
first
wait till you
times I've gone out solo bow hunting by myself, and I was just shitting my pants all of a sudden. I'm like, "What is happening? What's going to happen
yeah.
here?" Yeah, it didn't end up
Wait till you
badly.
get hot by a sandbar, you'll know about that.
Yeah, yeah. Have you been around the Sandbar quite a bit?
Oh yeah, a lot earlier on. Not so much these days. I haven't hunted them too much lately, but yeah, they were probably the main thing I used to hunt for a long time,
Mm,
sort of thing. I used to live and work down in the heart of sandbar country. Well, I suppose there's a lot of it now, but back in those days, yeah, it was sort of bordering onto the Alpine National Park was where I used to work in some vineyards and that around there. So it was yeah, it was just good, like just some good mates. Played footy down there, lived in a small community, and everyone I knew and played footy with, they all had farms that backed onto all the bush, and
how good.
you just sort of just cruise up there and cruise around, just looking for sandbar. So that was from sort of like the mid to late '90s onwards, sort of mid to late '90s through to sort of yeah, early 2010 sort of thing, early teens.
Is
Yeah.
this all with a stick bow as well?
Um, the '90s was compound chasing
Hmm.
around. Definitely weren't as many sandbar around then. They were pretty hard
Come by.
to come across. And then sort of second at real grab at them was probably from like 2010 onwards, like when I got
Hmm.
back into bow hunting again.
Yeah.
And then yeah, so it's probably like probably a solid 5 or 10 years cracking into the sandbar. Like yeah, as much whenever I had spare time to go hunting, it was hunting sandbar.
And did you ever knock one over?
So I did, yeah, I did get a stag with a longbow. So
Yeah, wow.
yeah, very
Take us
very
through
very
that. That's
fortunate.
a big achievement.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there you go. It was we were once again Ben Solaris was down. We had trophy takers awards on. So I said, well, if you're coming down, like come down a few days early, and I'll take you. We'll go hunt some sandbar for a few days, and before we go up there. So it's like, yep, sweet. So he come down, and we went there for a few days, and I think this one afternoon we were sort of hunting in a spot pretty close to where I used to live, actually, like pretty much adjacent to the farm where I used to live. And we cruised in there and we sort of split up, said, oh, you go this way and I'll go that way around this big basin. So he'd got like a hind and a yearling towards me. And it's like, oh, cool. Seen a couple of these. I've seen a couple of back then. It's like, oh, cool. Seen a deer. Like that's a win. Like I've seen a deer
Yeah.
for the day for the hunt. Like that's it sort of thing. And then pushing along a bit further and then you hear some more sticks cracking and then a hind comes out again. And it's like, oh, that hind and the yearling, they're like, I'd only just pushed up a bit further. I thought, oh, they're coming back out, and then a stag pops out, and I was like, "Oh shit!" I was expecting that, and the stag's just standing like probably, and he was standing, and he had this is like, oh, like it had to be like right where you want to shoot, and I was just
Oh, of
like, oh,
course.
maybe if I aim forward just a little bit, so I missed the sapling, and so I thought because this stag had his nose right up her, right behind. She was an estrus sort of thing.
Yeah.
He was just
Read,
smelling her.
mate. Yeah.
I was like, yeah, yeah, and he wasn't moving, and he was just glued, but she was looking at me, and I thought, well, she's not going to take a step for him to clear the sapling.
No,
Like when she goes, she's just
she's
going to
gone.
go and going to take him with her,
Yeah.
and I thought it was a good shot. I thought that was exactly where I needed to go. Like that was just cracked him, and just saw the fletching like waving around his shoulder, and he took off. I was just like, holy crap! And so I cooeyed out to Ben, and he just appeared out of the bush like straight away. I was like, "Where were you?" He goes, "Did you?" He goes, "Did you shoot the stag?" I was like, "Yeah, I did." He goes, "Yes, yes, yes, you've done it." You know how he talks, "Yes, brother,
Yeah.
yes." And he's going off. We're like, "Oh my god!" So I said, "Let's follow it up." And I said, "I want to give it some time." He goes, "No, let's just follow it up and see what the blood." And he goes, "Oh." And we walked probably 5 yards, and there was the arrow, like because it had come down at such an angle being a bit further for the longbow, it had just hit him right on that knuckle of the shoulder blade, like the base of the shoulder blade,
Hmm.
and just hit him and then just worked its, just basically hardly penetrated and just fell out. It was just like,
Oh.
It's like I've been trying to get a sandbar stag for so long. That was the first shot I'd had at one, and it's just like, oh, it's like, oh well, all right, take a photo of that, like an arrow with the blood on it. So that's probably as close as I'll get. So it's like that'll do. So I'll see you back at the car, sort of thing. So we're walking, we split up again, and we're walking, and just replaying it over in my head, going, oh my god, so close. And I thought, I'm not even hunting here. I'm just walking around daydreaming, going, shit, what could have been, sort of thing. So I just sat down and had a muesli bar, had a drink of water, and said, well, the sun's gone down, it's nearly dark, I'll head back to the car. And I probably walked about 50 meters, and I just sort of looked and saw something, and all I could see was this coprosma, which is like a spiky prickle bush sort of thing, but the sandbar love to eat it. So it grows pretty thick, and so it's good cover and it's good food for them, so they love it. Anyway, this thicket of coprosma, I could just see one bit of it. It was like, you seen the Three Amigos with the singing bush, and it's going. Guess not. No, before
No,
time.
yeah.
So anyway, this bush is just waving around, just like thrashing backwards and forwards. And I couldn't even see antlers. All I could see was about 4 inches of this sandbar stag's back, and I could see his muscles and his shoulders flexing, and just the bush just going everywhere. I was just like, and I've just stopped, and this stag, like, he just must have sensed I was there, and he's just stopped, and then still no antlers, and just heard, and just bulldoze and just like straight through all the thick stuff. I was like, oh, so like virtually walked on him, like, and it's just like, oh, and it's just like, and he took off, and I sort of stood there again, just like far out. And I thought, hang on, he couldn't have seen me. He couldn't have heard me. And there's no way he could have smelt me because the wind was going straight across. Like, it's like, I reckon he just sensed something was up and took off. And then one of my mates from school, his old man was a Kiwi deer culler back in the day.
Yeah.
And he hunted sandbar a lot as well because he worked in the forestry in northeast Victoria. And said, he goes, I think sandbar are a lot like seeker deer, like that he used to hunt at home. He goes, they're very curious. And he says, when we'd hunt seeker deer, he goes, if we'd put one up, like back in the, the old days, the old deer cullers, and that, he goes, oh, we'd put up a seeker, I'd just sit down and I'd just sing like hum to myself or just talk quietly to myself and roll a cigarette. And by the time I'd smoke that cigarette, 9 times out of 10, that seeker stag would come back to see what it was.
Interesting.
And that just stuck in my head. And that just stuck in my head. So I went, I can't follow him because there's no way I'd make 10 yards without making noise.
Yeah.
If he's run 20 yards or 50 yards and stopped and listened, like if I just stay here, he won't hear me, and he just might come back just out of curiosity. Well, I just stood there, back against the tree, knocked an arrow. It's like 5 minutes later, I heard a stick crack. I thought, you're joking. This doesn't happen. And so anyway, see a little bit of movement, and sure enough, see the stag like poking through. It's just like, you're joking. And he's just probably walking past it like 15 yards, and he's walking towards an opening in this coprosma thicket, and there's an opening 2 meters wide, and this stag walks, and I just pivoted on my balls of my feet, and just so I'm turning broadside, just fingers on the string ready, and he's walked and he's stopped. He's come out strutting like a dressage horse, and his mane was all up and his nose was down. He was just posturing like a dominance posturing, it must be. I've never seen or heard of this behavior, but I reckon it was just like he thought it was another stag, obviously because there's that hot hind in the basin. So he's come down off the plateau, like scented her, come down into the basin where she is, smashing up the trees to say, I'm the big dog here. And he was bigger than the other stag that had put an arrow into earlier. And anyway, and he's just stopped broadside in this big gap. And I was just in shock, and I'm just standing there going, okay. And so I just drew back and I shot him, and it just went, if I walked up to him and stuck the arrow into his side, I couldn't have put it any better. It just went straight into that triangle, like hit him on the crease, quartering forwards, third of the way up. And that was it. I've just gone, and my legs just went to rubber. It's just like, he just twitched like a fly, bit him or whatever, and just trotted off like without a care in the world. And I just like, I can't handle this shit like this. This is like, I can't believe this. Like, and I just go, coo-eat out again or whatever, and I'll turn the radio on and coo-eat, and turn the radio on and said, Butcher. He goes, yeah, it's all right. I know where I am. I'm back at the car just about. And it's like, no. I shot it at stag. He goes, what? The same one? I was like, nah, a bigger one. He's like, shit, stay there, like keep cooey, and like I'll come get you. I'll come get you, and I'll come to you. And he just run back to where I was cooeying from, and he's like, have a look. So we just checked out, and straight away there was lung blood, and it's like, oh, this is good. It's like, I'm not pushing this. Like, oh, there's no way I'm pushing this stag, like, because it was thick where we were. It's like, there's no way I'm pushing this thing, like. And after that first stag, it's like, I don't know if that longbow can penetrate any good on it. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm second guessing myself. He goes, "This is a good shot." It's like, I thought the first one was a good shot. Like, I don't know. This one seemed pretty good. Like, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Like, I didn't even know what was going on. I just shot me bow. Like, my head was spinning. So
Yeah.
So we walked out and went back, and that was yeah. Like once again, I said a long night. Like that was the original long night for me. Holy crap! Like I was thinking, like if I lose 2 sandbar stags in a day with a longbow, I was like, oh my god, I couldn't cope with this. So
Yeah.
went back
Retirement
the next
early.
day. And, yeah, and had another mate that was there. Who, like that was we were staying with him, and he's like, I'll take the day off work and I'll come with you. And he gave us a hand and like he's super experienced sandbar hunter, rifle hunter, but super experienced. And it's like straight away, oh, there's his running marks. He could just see on the ground, like from 30 meters away where his prints were. He goes, oh, yeah, he's gone this way. He's like, holy crap. So he's led the way, and then he's lost it. He's lost the track. He's lost the blood, and we're just going, oh, and it started self-doubt. He's creeping in. It's like, oh, no, don't tell me I'm going to lose it. He's going, oh, look, I know where there's an old logging track. I'll just cut around like it's, a couple of 100 meters away. I'll cut around and see if we can find it. And he's gone around. Sure enough, he's found his tracks and blood, and goes, there's good blood too. Like he's bleeding now. He's bleeding freely. So I was like, okay. So I went up there and found it, and then we lost it again. I was like, oh my god, like what the hell's going on? And so he's gone, oh look, we're pretty close to the farm. Like I know where there's a dam down the farm. He might have gone down the water. So my mate's gone down there, and in the meantime, I'm sitting down there and I'm on my hands and knees and I'm walking, like crawling around, hands and knees, like turning over leaves, like seeing if there's a blood, like he's dropped blood on it and then stepped on the leaf and flipped it over. That's to the stage where I was trying to find anything.
Yeah, wow.
Because the trail just went up to this caprosma bush and just stopped dead. I'm like, oh my god. And because I was on my hands and knees, I went, oh, there's a little like a wombat tunnel there. And so I just looked down the tunnel, and all I could see was blood, like foam and blood, like frothy lung blood, both sides of this tunnel. Like,
no way.
It would have only been 2 foot off the ground, this tunnel, and he'd got down and crawled through this tunnel. I was like, holy shit. And I've yelled out, Ben, like, come here, like, go to the other side of this tunnel, and like where the blood is. Like, I want to make sure, because there's the tunnels everywhere. Like, go around the other side of this, thicket and find the tunnel. And like, yep, that's the tunnel. And he's like, hang on. He's called my friend's girlfriend over and said, like, it's like, just stay there. It's like, what? Have you got the blood? He goes, just wait. It's like, what's happening? Like, and then he goes, okay, come around. And I went, come around. He goes, you'd want to look down there, brother. And look down there, and there's the sandbar stag like 20 yards away, like just laying down there. I was like, oh, you're joking. And he's just like full Ben Solaris froth mode. Woo! He's going off and frothing out as he does, and he's just slapped me on the back, and I've just gone. And it didn't seem real. Like, because
no, I can imagine.
I think when you shoot something that you've never thought you would, or you always wanted to, I know it just seems there's a few things I've been lucky enough to go with. It doesn't seem real when you shoot it, because you go, oh, that stuff doesn't happen to ordinary blokes. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just a bloke that loves bow hunting. I'm not super at it. I'm not flash at it, but I've been lucky a few times. I've been fortunate. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
every now and then you get a good day, and that was a good day.
Yeah, that's incredible. So he literally he crawled through this wombat tunnel, like he's crawled through to the other side to try escape, and then he's just tumbled over.
Yep. Yeah. Once he crawled through, he was done. He's probably made about 10 meters past and was just laying up against a log dead. Yeah.
That is so bizarre.
Yeah, he went 400 meters.
Jesus. And all downhill?
Pretty much, yeah. Halfway where we lost the trail sort of thing, he tried going uphill, and he only went uphill for about 10 meters, maybe 5 meters. He couldn't do it. He was just too crook. And then you just kept going downhill the whole way, like just kept going downhill all that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably the last 100 was all downhill, straight downhill. Yeah.
That's crazy. I wonder if he stumbled into the hole, or if that's something that they actually do. Like, yeah, I'd never heard of that at all.
Yeah, they'd get down on their knees. They'll get down on their 4 knees and crawl through tunnels, sandbar. Yeah.
Wow, that's so interesting.
Mates that have seen them, like seen stags crawling through tunnels, like with their antlers on their backs, just
Yeah.
crawling through all the
Just tuck their
dogwood or
head right
crawling
back.
through.
Yeah. Wow. That's
Yep.
so interesting. It's
Yep.
actually, it's one that's been super highly requested is to do like a Samba specific one. And it's been one that I had three dudes lined up to do it as like a panel essentially to do it for this year. And it was only at the end of April that one of the dudes pulled out on us. I'm like, God damn it. So now I'm still trying to find a third one. I've actually got a guy lined up. I haven't completely convinced him yet, but he's got a lot of experience with them. So I'm hoping that I can make the Samba podcast actually come to fruition, where we do a deep dive into Samba hunting and
Yep.
talking, in depth about that. So I won't promise anything,
Yep.
but it's on the cards. It's going to come eventually. But yeah, I'm intrigued to learn more about them. That's for sure. I think
Yep.
they'd probably be one of like the most hunted species in Australia, just because of the dense population that we have in Victoria, meaning of humans, the dense population we have in Victoria that have access to be able to hunt them. I'd say.
I think also just the vast tracts of public land in
Mm,
Victoria to hunt them.
hmm.
Like you've got a lot of the Alpine National Park you're allowed to hunt in, as well as all the state forests and that. And there's a lot of area you can hunt sandbar.
Yeah.
And if you don't have access, there's a lot of public area that have got sandbar in them, and good numbers of sandbar too. So
Yeah. Okay.
yep,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
it's
interesting.
definitely a species that's readily available for people to hunt. So
Mm,
yep,
yeah. Definitely. Very interesting. So, um, how big did he go?
he's 28 inch. Yeah,
Yeah. Wow.
yeah, 28 inch. So he was 184 Douglas. So he was in the top 10 bow hunt.
Jesus
I think he's
Christ.
number 7 bow shot. Yeah,
Yeah. Far out.
yep. So
That's crazy. Good on you, mate. That's awesome. I love the humbleness
yeah,
of it
it is.
too. I mean, like it's obviously that is the thing about bow hunting. Like you get out and you spend time in the bush, and that's when you will see more animals and when you'll get more opportunities.
Yep, yeah, 100%. Like, well, work's got me nailed down pretty much these days. Like my roster, and
Hmm.
basically my free time, I'm happy to be dad when I go home. And I think I've got teenage boys,
Yep,
and they're not going to be home for much longer. So
definitely.
I'll just be for the next few years. I'll be there, and then I suppose after that I can do some hunting. But yeah, you're saying you got to be humble. Like if you're not, it'll humble you pretty quickly. And
Yep.
if you don't like being humble, then you'll probably give up bow hunting, I'd say, because that's how it rolls.
Hmm.
It's just you need to be humble. You check the ego in at when you hop out the car and set boots on the ground, because that's what it's about. But I suppose that's the appeal of it too. Like,
Definitely. Yeah, it'll kick your ass all weekend and make you feel good about it.
yeah, and then you want to get back.
Yeah,
You've had your
exactly.
aspirations. Like, when can we do that again?
Yeah.
That was awesome.
You brought up a pretty interesting topic before. Now, I didn't touch on it then, but I'd like to revisit in regards to you talked about that we didn't have the deer species or that much deer, so therefore there wasn't really much of a rut. In general,
No.
what have you seen with not just deer populations, but populations of animals in general based on the spaces that you've hunted over Australia? I mean, I've heard mixed stories of the 70s being just like crazy with the amounts of animals that we actually had. And then
Hmm.
it almost feels like it had died off a fair bit, and now I feel like we're seeing a lot. Like I saw an ADA thing. I think it was an ADA thing. Sorry, is it? Yeah, Australian Deer Association. They put out a video the other day of the growth of deer over Australia, going from within the thousands to literally like 1.5 million. And it wasn't specific to any
Hmm.
type of deer. They were just saying this is the deer species that we have here now in Australia and the growth that it's had. And it's just kind of spanned out pretty quickly. What have you kind of noticed and seen over the few years that you've been bow hunting?
Um, definitely. Well, from in the early '90s, from when I was starting bow hunting, they might as well be from overseas. Like you might as well be hunting overseas. Like you just wouldn't see deer. They just weren't in Australia, and
Yeah.
it's such low populations that it was hardly even worth hunting them. Sandbar, like guys used to ride the bikes in behind closed gates.
Hmm.
Seasonal gate closures in Victoria, like in the Wannergatta and that, to go and hunt sandbar. And if you saw a sandbar, for the week, that was awesome,
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It was just that's just how it was. It wasn't until probably probably mid 90s, sort of when we had those bad bushfires.
Mm.
And there was one set of bushfires, and I think it just sort of pushed the deer out a bit out of their range where they'd been in for a long time, and it created a lot of regrowth where it was hard for people to hunt deer as well.
Yeah.
So it pushed them out into new basins, new areas. Like
Mm-hmm.
they've been pushing out for a long time, but I think it pushed a large number out quickly, and they moved quickly, sort of thing. So that started a real big wave, sort of the late 90s of sandbar, sort of, and they've just once they've pushed, there've been a few big fire events too throughout Victoria since then. But I think
Mm-hmm.
that's been the main thing in sandbar populations, to really push them out and spread them out quicker than just natural population increases. And it's got, I think, probably that, and it's probably got to a tipping point too, where, there used to be 10,000 sandbar and 2,000 were getting shot every year or whatever, you know what I mean? But now that there's, 100,000 sandbar, well, you could shoot 10,000 and it's not even putting a dent in it. You know what I mean? It's got past that tipping point where there's that many more deer there now that no matter how you shoot. I remember in the 90s, like people saying, like there was a hound crew up near Mount Beauty, sort of near where I am, and they shot 52 deer one year, and blokes were up in arms saying they're going to stuff it for everyone. There'll be no deer. Like that was the mentality, because there weren't many deer around. Like just like 50 deer, people wouldn't see 50 deer in probably their lifetime back then.
Yeah.
Blokes have been hunting for 10 years, 20 years, and probably never seen 52 sandbar. So that was just it just wasn't there then.
The uproar. How interesting.
Yeah. So that's sandbar, fallow and red, obviously roughly about the same time, the early 90s, probably late 80s, when the deer farming industry in Australia, like your red and fallow deer,
Mm-hmm.
they're your main farmed species, that went bust. And a lot of deer farms all around the country just cut the fences, open the gates. And that was probably, where a lot of the red and fallow, because prior to that, there were the small traditional herds of fallow throughout Australia in scattered pockets, like your Lake George in New South Wales, or your Glen Innes herd, or there was some in South Australia, but they were all in small pockets. And then suddenly just deer had been put up everywhere, and that just sort of probably accelerated there. And once again, they got into the parks, the bush or whatever, and that population got above that threshold and just started tipping out everywhere. But yeah, and that I suppose, and there's been obviously a couple of introductions along the way. People have let rooster out here and there, or a couple of chill out here and there throughout there. Probably hog deer are the ones that haven't increased because of their range. Then that's just where they live, and they've got a pretty crappy little section of coastline. And it's pretty hard for them to live on, and they get hit pretty hard by poaching and spotlighting and all that sort of stuff. And I dare say they get thermals nowadays. So.
Do you think that's habitat as well? Like they thrive in that sort of situation, so therefore they haven't really wanted to change or look for new areas?
I just think they're quite vulnerable. They're a small deer. I think they're vulnerable to foxes as calves. They're vulnerable to wedgies. I mean, even as yearlings, they're not real big.
Yeah.
And of course, there's not many of them. So as soon as they spread out into farmland, there'd be, blokes just spotlight them and just shoot them, sort of thing. So yeah, they don't last very long. And it seems to be the flavour of the month now that deer are bad and deer are going to kill everyone, and we better get rid of them. And that, unfortunately, there've been some concerted efforts, and especially Wilson's Promontory, like the main stronghold of hog deer in Victoria, in the national park, where they've been shooting them. Parks have been shooting them. So
gotcha. I didn't realize that's where they were. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So they've been shooting them a lot. So traditionally they've been in Wilson's Promontory, and they just sort of keep breeding up there and pushing out into the farmland and other areas as they get shot and that sort of stuff. They'd always be there, but now they're sort of hammering them in the park. So I don't know what the future holds for the hoggies, sort of thing, unless some more people, I suppose, can get some more private land and give them a few little refuges, where they can live unmolested, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting. What about like pig and goats, like herds and stuff that you've seen? Any major differences, or this kind of ebb and flow?
Yeah, well, it was the opposite. Goats were everywhere when I was growing up, and that's all we hunted around here. And now, in the mountain areas around home, it's probably wild dogs that have got rid of the goats more than anything.
Yeah.
Like there've been great mobs of goats on certain ranges and that have been there for 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
And they're virtually down to like less than a dozen animals now,
Wow.
just from goats. I was just from dogs, sorry. Out west, obviously, where the big numbers are, Western New South Wales and Queensland, you've had a live capture for a
Hmm.
long time, and it's been good for the farmers because it's kept a lot of farms afloat.
Yeah, definitely.
When a lot of farms would have gone under, especially the early 2000s with those droughts. But now, yeah, now it's sort of. I'd like to hope that the prices are coming off, and it would probably only take a few years of lower prices and a few wet seasons out west, and you'd probably get a big
Big
explosion.
spurt. I
Like
mean,
not
they
that the
have
numbers
dropped
are
back down again,
not
right?
yeah, not that the numbers are bad, but they're not um
Not what
accessible
they
for
were.
people because they're a
Yeah,
revenue stream for people. They don't want you shooting billies because billies weigh more and that's more money for them. So
definitely. Yeah, I think at one point they were getting, I can't even remember. I want to say $14, but that sounds ridiculous. 14 a kilo or something, but that seems like it
oh
might
mate,
be
that was
too high.
14 a kilo. That was back in the 90s. That was like I can't remember what it was. I don't know what it was per kilo, but I think it was nearly. I think it was they were getting nearly $200 for a billy live weight.
Yeah, okay.
So I don't know what they were. It might have been 30 something dollars a kilo or 40. Don't quote me. I can't remember what it was, but it was a lot. It was ridiculous.
Yeah,
And
okay.
those sort of places where you can muster thousands of goats, like
Mm,
it's big money.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
definitely.
Obviously,
Yeah.
there's costs, there's outlay in your transport and mustering and all that sort of stuff, but still, there's a lot of money. Yeah. So
Yeah, I heard of farms that were setting up complete like one-way gates essentially on the dam systems. It was on a spring system, and they'd just lock them, and
yep,
then all of a sudden they'd
yep,
have 100 goats, and they'd just muster them all up, and they'd spend big money on setting those operations up, but it would pay for
mm,
itself within the first 6 months, and then it was just all cream on top, and they were making millions off of these goats.
yep,
So yeah,
yep.
pretty interesting. The
Well, where I live in at Wodonga, they've got an abattoir, and you know, years gone by, you'd see B doubles, coming from Ivanhoe and from out west. It'd have, the name on them where these trucks that come from out west, and just B doubles full of goats, just
Yeah,
billy
wow.
goats, just like rocking in like
Yeah.
non-stop. You just see them, but I haven't seen any for a fair while now. So
Yeah, I think
I'd
the
like to think
prices
that
have
the
dropped right
prices are
back
low,
down
and
again. Yeah, they've kind of
yeah,
dropped
well, then
off the
you like
face
they
of the
stay
earth.
low for a bit, and then you might be able to find some farmers that are a bit open to the idea. Just knock, yeah, I just want a couple, mate. Yeah, just knock off one or two billies and a couple for meat, and they go, yeah, go for it, whatever. Hoping that's
Yeah.
the case, but yeah, I've been pretty like, I think I've been lucky to shoot a couple of good ones, and I think I've always liked chasing them around the mountains. That's for me. Like I like a big buff-headed, muscly mountain goat sort of thing, good
Yeah.
with big horns. Like to me, that's the pinnacle. I'd love that. You know what I mean? Like I'd hunt them over anything. I just love it. But I think the only place you'll get a not I probably shouldn't say that, but the place where you're most likely to get a really good head, especially in the last few years, has been in those mountain herds where there's a small herd.
Mm.
Because if there's 500 goats up there, then everyone knows about them. But if Farmer Joe's got 2 dozen goats on his place, and they've got good genetics and no one hassles them, then you'd be lucky. And I mean, I was lucky. I shot one that was 46 inches on such a scenario.
Oh,
Like,
God.
yeah, yeah,
Biggie. Yeah, wow. It was
yeah,
interesting what you were saying about the dog species, like the dog taking out the herds, and it was very interesting
yeah.
on our rat hunt. We actually were looking up at the hills. We got there and we could see all the goats up in the hills, and Grant said, "Glass up there, boys, and see if you can see any kid goats at all." And we were looking, we're like, "No, there's none. Like it was all just old, more mature animals." And he
Yep.
goes, "Yeah, there's definitely dogs. Like these dogs are. We know that there's 5 dogs on this block that have been here for a while, but they've definitely affected that goat herd. Like you can see it." And then next
Mm.
minute, like within probably half an hour of that, the 5 dogs were running up the valley, and yeah, he went off and shot one, which is awesome. But it was just
God, awesome.
crazy to see what an effect it's actually had on that herd. Like just to watch it, and the fact they are just such easy prey, right? The
Mm.
kids, yeah,
Yeah, well, they're helpless, the poor little buggers. You know what I mean? They're so
yeah,
bad. Like the nanny goat's not even going to defend them. Really, they can't. You know
no,
what I mean? So if the dog wants to nap them, they'll nap them. It's easy pickings for them. But I remember Dave Whiting saying, oh, it was back in the probably in the early 80s or something like that. There was a station somewhere in Western Queensland. It must have been on the wrong side of the dingo fence where all the dogs were. And he
Yep.
said on this property, he said like there were thousands of goats on there, and they were all billies
Yeah. Wow.
because all the nannies and kids have been eaten by the dingoes. So he said there was only billies, and some of the like his half the billies were 40 inches.
Yeah. Wow. That'd be
He
very
said,
interesting just to watch them. What would happen to
yeah,
the how they interact and yeah, how they change in general after you take out all the female population. That'd be so super interesting to watch.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, pretty hard to find a nanny or a kid sort of in those sorts of places. I
Yeah.
suppose until you knock the dogs down, then yeah, they'll either wipe the goats out entirely, or
Mm.
the dogs, get knocked down a bit again. So depends if it's or is it like private property? Is it where this was?
Yeah. Yep. Correct.
Is it back onto bush at all, or
The I think it would like essentially it was. I don't know what's over the other side of the ridges there, but yeah, big
yeah,
old hill that these goats were on.
yeah,
You could walk up there and take a fair bit of effort, that's for sure. But yeah,
yeah,
so I don't know what's on the back sides of it, but yeah, I would say it would go into another property on the other end of the ridge. I'd think.
yeah, yeah? They're tricky to get, aren't they? The dogs, like they're hard, like between the dogmen and people shooting them with rifles, and they're still not easy to get. You know what I mean? They're
Mm,
cunning, and they're hard to get rid of.
yeah,
So yeah,
definitely. Yeah, very interesting. Well, what have I not asked you about? What should have asked you about that I didn't yet? Anything you want to cover?
no, I don't know.
We've done
I didn't
we've
have
done
any.
a fair.
I didn't have a checklist, mate. I'm just happy to talk bow hunting. No,
Yeah, definitely. It's
no,
always
no.
good. Yeah. Well, I think it's been a great conversation. I really appreciate it. We had a few little cutouts of internet here and there, but we've got all the stories out so far, which is good.
Yep,
So
cool.
yeah, I think thanks for your time, Steve, and appreciate you coming on, mate. And I think the best place to probably send people is straight over to Trophy Takers, right? Like the more we can get into that, the better.
Yeah, yep, yep. This year in September, so I think it's the 20th and 21st of September, in Albury. We've got our annual awards down there. So
Awesome.
yeah, reach out to me on Facebook Messenger or Instagram if you want, and yeah, just flick us a message if you can. Come on down. Anyone's welcome. Come on down. Just hang out, talk bow hunting, look at some stuff, and yeah, it's all good.
Sounds like a great weekend. Well, I'll make sure
Yeah,
that all your information's in the show notes. So if anyone wants to follow it up, make sure you just jump on there and yeah, you should be able to see it all there.
no dramas. All right. Thanks, Matty. Cheers.
Yeah, I appreciate it, mate.
Good as gold. All right. Take care.